Ladies and gentlemen, we're just about to call this meeting to order. If you do desire to speak at the during the call to the public, please make sure you fill out a form and get it to us. Thank you very much. It is 7 o'clock. We are going to call this meeting to order, so it is time for roll call. Janine Goglowski.
Here.
Becky Baisley.
Here.
Nancy Rosso.
Here.
Holly Naylor.
Here.
Don Smith.
Here.
Kim Armstrong. Myself, Bill Boland. We are all here. President accounted for. We call this meeting to order. Now, if you would please stand and face the flag for the pledge of allegiance. Allegiance.
For all.
You may be seated. We want to let you know about a couple of situations that we are facing here. We do have some armed personnel here just to keep an eye on things with the current state of our nation. And we would prefer to make sure that we minimize any possibilities of some type of an incident that would be detrimental to our community. And so we want to welcome them. We're happy that you're here and thank you for joining us. And we also want to point out that we are now recording the meeting. So anything that is stated will be made not just part of the record, the written record, but also a stated record. And that is something that we think is very much appropriate. And so now we are going to move to the approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
We have this motion and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I would like to amend the agenda. I think that we would like to amend the agenda for discussion on policies 2010, 2020, 2030, 2031, 2032, and 3020 that were from the September meeting. I'd like to move that under C1 when we're talking about amending that. So we have C, review of the policies. I think that would fit in right in there. I'd also like to make another amendment to the agenda for,
Yes,
oh, right, so that.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Okay.
Discussion on the amendment? All right, be there no discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion so prevails.
I'd like-
It has been,
And I'd like to make another amendment to the agenda as to if we could put on there under B1, approval of our September minutes. Since we were unable to have the September meeting, I think that would be go if we're talking after the library closing and before we go into the review of the policies. So if we could approve our September meeting minutes.
We didn't have any.
But we had minutes from the month before.
Oh, August.
August minutes.
So are you saying that we read the regular meeting for August 21st?
Yeah,
That's under the consent.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's A.
oh, gosh. Sorry.
It's okay. It's good to check.
Strike that.
so you're withdrawing your.
Yep.
All right. So now back to the agenda. We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any additional discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Approval of the consent agenda.
I move that we approve our consent agenda.
I'll second.
All of the approval of the consent agenda, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion so prevails. Library Director's Report. Sarah, you would.
Yes. So I believe I had a blurb in the update about the book vendor situation. While it's very important to library people, I don't know if people in the world know that one of our book vendors closed. And they're one of the largest in the country, so it will affect bookstores and libraries. So staff have been working on how to deal with that. It is not just us this time. When we did change last time, it was from Brodart two Baker and Taylor. Now there's only Brodart and another one called Ingram. We're going to have to use local booksellers and or Amazon in the interim, but the public may notice that there are fewer new books on the shelf. We can get things through Amazon. There's lots of procedural issues with that, but we're working through it. So nothing else has changed. There's just been a lot of shuffling. And it's a big procedural, and there may need to be a budget amendment probably next month once I know how it's going to sort. Because it's going to be a lot more in-house processing, and we'll have to put some more into a line for that. But I think we can do it. The other updates, they're all in the writing, but the dates to remember: a week from yesterday is the State of the Community at the Music Hall. Everyone's invited. This year's theme is about, the connections the partners in the area have with each other. I'll be speaking about the plans for the outdoor Cromaine Commons. And then I had an ask for people to volunteer at the Vintage Hartland Christmas in the Village event. I think this could be a great volunteer opportunity because people will be happy and jolly. And we just need additional bodies because a lot of people are out of town that weekend. We don't have any teens signed up to volunteer yet. Maybe one. Yeah, it's late. I mean, it's far out for them. So just let me know if you can do any of that. The other big news. So we haven't made a press release yet about the big grant that we were awarded, but we were awarded $250,000 from the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation. This will be for additional features in the outdoor Cromaine Commons, so it won't go towards the stuff we've already planned and budgeted for. Just this week, I've had multiple meetings with various individuals about what we could do. Like a playscape, but not a playground. We don't need a playground. With like a wow feature, some outdoor instruments like you see in parks now to tie in the history of music, and some other interactive elements. And it will most likely be further down at the end of the property towards the School Street Road. But we're working at a quick clip right now to integrate those plans into the thing that was just approved so that we can get additional approval and go out to bid. Our goal for going to bid is, an ambitious goal would be late November. With all these rolling decisions we have to make between now and then, it might be December. And we'd had a discussion. One of you asked me a good question of, if you go to bid in December, do you get good bids? So my goal is December. And I'll keep you all informed about that. But it's great news to have extra money for extra things. I think the community will be really pleased with it. It's been an interesting process to learn how to do all that. And big thanks to Liz Welch, who applied for that grant and got it for us. I was hesitant to do it for all the administrative reasons that I'm now dealing with, but it's exciting to have extra money for the community. And then you've all seen the PR around the Grant Suite Memorial Essay Contest. This is for essays children in the whole county can write about interviewing a veteran and getting stories from veterans. We have great interactions every year. Grant Sweet was a maintenance worker here in this building for years who died. So people always say, what's Grant Sweet? So there's information about him and why we named it after him on the web. And there's a lot of other things in here, but that's the main thing. I brought the TV in tonight because I thought I might show the video of the weaving celebration that we had 2 weeks ago. It is 12 minutes long, so I've decided against making you all watch it, but it's great. It's on our YouTube channel. If you haven't seen it, Hartland was the center of the weaving guild industry. I was thinking industry, but guild is more, handcrafts industry in the country in the 1930s. So there's really interesting information there. We have a video that was made by our librarians, and there's even a song that was written by local people about weaving, and it's great. It's great stuff.
Cool.
Maybe at the end of the meeting, I will play it because I don't want to force anybody, but I figured I had an audience and I could make you watch it. That's it for my update. I'm hopeful that, let me see. Oh, the other good news that just happened today was the audit letters are drafted. We have another clean audit. There is one change this year with compensated absences, which the auditor will come to the next meeting, which is November 20th, to present. It was just one of these Gatsby rules changed. So there was nothing done wrong, just some reporting changes. So there will be a change in the balance sheet, but it worked out well. So that's good news because you always wonder about the audit. So once that is finalized, I'll put it on the website like I do every year, and we can talk about it at the next meeting
When is the presentation?
next month at the regular board meeting. She said she can come to that one.
I want to say kudos to Liz, I want to say kudos to Sarah and Dan, I would like more attention to the route team. So they had $250,000 to benefit the patrons, the community, the village, everybody involved. I was gonna say, the work that was involved and the stellar job that Liz did to obtain this grant.
I'm really
It needs to be highlighted, and it needs to be a focus for the community. So much good is coming from this. We have a Cromaine Common landscape project that's gonna beautify the township. This is only going to add and benefit the focus in regards to the vision that that Sarah has to benefit the children, the musical themes. I was gonna say, this really needs to be highlighted. Is a wonderful good news story. It is exemplary. And I just don't think enough attention is being brought to this. And Sarah's been very humble about the effort involved. It's not. Yeah, and if we could get the word out in regards to this grant and this information and improvements, it would just really help. I was going to say, there's so much good going on. So Sarah, Liz, thank you ever so much. More to come, and then, like you said, an aggressive timeline, and we are going to see the fruits of all the labor and the benefits to this community.
And there will be a press release with PR and ways for the community to get involved
Yeah.
as soon as we, sign on the dotted line. So I've learned not to. I'm talking about it here, so I've already done it, but I think that we're gonna have it soon. So, thank you.
I also want to confirm the meeting and that working.
Yeah.
It was interesting, it was charming. And it just was so perfect.
And I think the Christmas event might be that way as well. The Christmas event came out of community council. It was new last year. It'll be better this year. There's going to be a King of the Wing contest because everyone jokes that there's so many chicken places in Hartland, which is a valid joke.
Yeah.
But they're actually going to be a competition to raise money for the Optimist Club, who's going to give that money to adopting a family for Christmas. So it's all good. It's all good stuff. I'll have more on that next month, but it's nice when you can do things in the village and feel like the library is at the center of it. So thank you.
And she spends it. I mean, we'll have one more chicken.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do they do wings too? Yeah. Okay.
A discussion decision of review of participants.
I wanted to note that when looking this over, I noticed a few errors and I printed out a correction and then I didn't bring it up. So it's downstairs. The errors were that I didn't count all of the collection numbers for downloadable. So then it looks like we decreased in downloadables, we increased. I left out 2 of the vendors we use and it was just an error on the spreadsheet. So I can update that for the packet next month. I don't know if anybody clocked that, but it is the decrease that I would have noticed. Did anyone else have questions? The rest of the numbers are accurate. It's just the collection numbers show a decrease in audio and downloadable.
Also for circulation and also for physical items added.
That is true. Physical items added is a result of this unable to get things from the vendor. I mean, we still have added, but not, and circulation is up 4%. So that should be okay. Physical visits are right around the same. They're within 10 of the year before, which is interesting.
Considering the bridge is out,
Right.
Mhm.
do we have any word on when that's coming?
This week.
We don't, but I read something on Hartland Living that this weekend they're going to close it for a day and I hope it gets fixed because it's affected my life. So
I do that.
yeah.
All right, library closing calendar for 2026. We will need a motion.
Let's find it. Where is it? Here it is.
Is it reflect the same as current?
It's the same as this year. The only two that say TBD were just that those were dates that we picked for staff and service, correct? They are fine with me. I put them on my calendar. I think they flow. Yeah, there's no change this year from last year unless, yeah. Mhm.
Sir, has it been a lot of complaints about the library not being open?
No,
And just
the staff did like it. Yeah.
just a question too, is there a way to track? Cause I know we have Sunday hours, they end in May. How active we are in the cost of for having the Sunday hours? Is it?
You mean all for the rest of the year?
Yeah,
There are ways to track it if you want me to, but anecdotally, I do think there are people that come on Sundays that can't get here during the week, but I could do a study.
okay,
I think if we ever needed to save money, we could do it, but for now, I don't think there's a reason to cut
okay,
it.
just ask
Yeah.
the price. I move that, yeah, second, yeah.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion? Either no discussion. We need to take a vote, and so Janine Gabriowski,
Yes,
Becky Baisley, Nancy Rosso,
Yeah.
Holly Naylor, Don Smith, and Mark, and myself. So, yeah. We have 7 yes and no nays. Motion so prevails. Carries. Move. Very good. All right. Reviewing the policies, 10:10.
we didn't have changes. I move that we accept policy 1010 as written.
We have motions or second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Motion so prevails. 6001. Fund balance.
So
Discussion? Either no discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion so prevails. 6002, revenue distribution and fund accounting and finance.
I move that we approve as written.
Any discussion, either with a motion and a second? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion so prevails. 6003, fixed assets capitalization finance.
I move that we accept 6003 as written.
second.
Discussion, either no discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion so prevails. 6004. Gifts to the library finance.
I move that we accept 6004 as written.
Is there a second? We have a second and second. Any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion so prevails. Discussion of material, excuse me, the amendment of the policies and.
So can I just, okay, so the policies in our August board packet to be voted on in September, we did talk about these in full disclosure to the public. This was talked about in committee. There were no changes to these policies. I'd like to do a blanket motion for these policies. They were talked about, but they do need to be voted on by the entire board. But there were no changes to these policies. I move that policy 2010, 2020, 2030, 2031, 2032 and 3020 stand as written.
Done.
So motion and second, any discussion? Would be there a discussion? All in favor, indicate by saying aye. opposed? Motion so prevailed. Discussion of material reconsideration appeal process.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, we did talk about the development committee. And we wanted to come up with a operationalized reviewing results that were appealed. So what we talked about was we have a form that you could have in your packet. That each trustee would look at the books and have to fill out some information on the form. Yeah, I'm not sure. So, so first, what we'll do is we will either vote to uphold the director's decision or vote to consider the appeal. And then after that, we would, review the request and the director's decision. We each have to have the ability to read the challenge material and complete the appeal form. And then we would then bring those together when we're completed, and then go ahead and vote on whether to retain, relocate, or label the materials at the next board meeting. And then after that is done, we thought it would be pertinent that would remain effective 24 months from the date of that decision, so that we wouldn't have multiple appeals to the same book. Because we have the same board, it would be the same people looking at the books. It wouldn't make sense to do it again before that. That's kind of, the new discussion.
So I would say that we need to move and make a motion to accept our revised form for challenge process. I move that we accept this form as a board and and it was drafted by 9/25 for the committee, by committee.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I second, but Nancy, the title of it is evaluation of appeal. So maybe it's.
Value. We do have.
Any discussion? We have a motion in a second. Even no discussion, all in favor indicate by, roll call, I'm sorry. Excuse me, back to say either roll call. Janine Gogliowski,
Yes.
Becky Baisley, Nancy Rothschild,
Yeah.
Holly Naylor,
Yes.
Don Smith,
Yes.
Kim Armstrong,
Yes.
Gail Borland, yes. A motion so prevails unanimously.
So to further, so to further this, now to further the discussion, now that the new form, and the new form has been published online. Everything has been there along with the challenge. So now we would need to discuss what we would like to do with the current challenge before us of the 250 books. So
The appeal of the challenge.
the appeal of the appeal of the challenge. So we would either, according to the form, we would either vote to uphold the director's decision in the matter or vote to consider the appeal. With considering the appeal, it would be to read the books from the board members.
I read the answer letters and thought they were all very thorough, well thought out, individualized for the books, so would support voting to uphold the director's decision.
Okay. Well, I would like to give some full disclosure here as well. I personally checked out 25 of the books on the challenge sheet, and I think that a very thorough search was done on those books, and I do agree with books that were presented here on the sheet as to how they were listed and that as well. Although I feel as a board, we should do our due diligence for this and read the books cover to cover. Changed my mind after further reviewing this and after further looking at this. I think that as a board, this is a heavy decision that's coming before us, before the community. And I think not to do our full due diligence as a board, I think that would not be prudent of us.
I support that. My opinion is I value the input of Sarah, I value her opinion, but it still comes down to the problem of one person making the decision. based on what their opinion is, and I feel that it's really democratic. And it's actually my responsibility to get the books myself. That's why I'm here, that's why I was voted in for, is to, try to make everything better for the community. So that's one of the things we've been trying to do for a couple of years, and if the community is that concerned that they made an appeal on that many books, it might turn out that I agree with everything, and that would be great.
Mhm.
But I don't feel comfortable just agreeing to that many books without having read them.
I do need to say that this is very different from the conversation we had in committee, not in public. In that conversation, Sarah was highly praised. Janine said clearly that she agreed with all of the decisions from the books you read, that we wanted to back the work that our library staff had done, and that you fully supported voting to uphold the director's decision. So I do have some concerns that what was presented in committee is then in public completely opposite. That undermines the committee process, and I feel like that's not.
I never said that I was gonna vote to not read the books, it may be.
No, but Janine did.
I think another thing that's come to light is I don't think it's possible that Sarah had the time to read all 200 books.
Yeah, I didn't. My staff did, yeah.
Certainly. Okay, so if the people that ordered the books in each department, teen, children, whatever they're in, they're the person who ordered the book. They're gonna be biased when they're reviewing the book because they ordered it. So I don't think it's a very objective. I don't think that they can, there's a risk that they cannot objectively evaluate whether the book is appropriate for that age group and whether there's content that's inappropriate, since they're the ones who picked it in the first place. And maybe because they never looked at it before, and maybe they did move some, but I feel like there's a lot of implicit bias, which a lot of people have probably heard that word,
Mhm.
especially in the past 5 to 6 years. There's gonna be implicit bias by those people to think that the books are okay. It's not their fault. It's just that is probably very likely. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't feel comfortable just voting yes to disagree to that.
I would agree with you.
Since that time too, I have read even more books. I haven't checked them out, but I have come and read those. So it's kind of like there's.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So,
so
and
that's- that is, that
I
is,
feel like there's a misrepresentation.
And we had another month.
We're entitled to our
Yeah.
feelings.
So I have a question. I'm happy to have you read all the books, but the appeal letter that I have in front of me isn't clear what the appeal is. So I just want you to look at the appeal letter and tell me how you're addressing it by reading all the books. Because the appeal, the questions that were asked is, where is the new book challenge form? It's on the website. When will it be available? Why is it not available? When will we be allowed to fill out the new book challenge forms? And I have written and called the person who sent this to get clarification about what she actually wants to do, and I don't have it. So I don't want you to do all that work like I did and find out this isn't what she wants. So I think that you might take this opportunity to think about that. You might know. Because I don't want us to assume we're going one direction when we're not.
Well, I think, with the patrons
Mhm.
in our direction, once the book has been appealed,
Mhm.
it then becomes incumbent upon us.
It does,
to
but the
then
letter doesn't
make-
say I appeal what she did. The appeal was that I didn't provide a form that I did. It didn't say I didn't like the outcome of the moving of the book. So I'm just unclear about that. And I did reach out and I did hear back that they would get back to me and they have not. Now I know they've been in communication with board members. So like, let me know, is the goal to just do all this work? Because that's my question. And I don't know that we know the answer to that. So
I'm sure.
That puts a whole different-
And
Yeah.
I imagine the appeal would be for the same reason that they originally changed the.
well, it's clear from the letter that they want to change it from sexual exploitation of children to age inappropriate content for minors. That's clear. I don't think I would change much of what I did based on that language change. Kim and I had a good conversation yesterday. There was one book she brought to me and she said, "Isn't this sexually explicit?" And it was one I had not flagged as that. It's one that's like a sex ed for teenagers type of book. I think it could get that label. Do you need to read all the books in order to force me to put the label on that book? I'll do it. And I don't want to like prevent you from doing the work. I think it might be good for everybody to read all the books. But I want to know what the goal is. Is the goal to move all the books to adult and label them? Is the goal to agree with what's sexually explicit? Because staff are having trouble understanding what our goal is because it changed in the middle, right? At first, we had a form, it changed, and the form did change. My goal is that when people come to me now, say Kim was a community member, which she is, and she brings me a book, and I looked at it, and I said, yeah, that meets that criteria, I'll put it on there. If you do it one book at a time like that, it doesn't take as long. So I want to make sure we're not doing a politically motivated statement about trans or gay people without doing it. Because I didn't put any of that in the letters, but that is the argument that was made to me, which is why I did not move some of these books. It wasn't because they weren't sexually explicit. It's because they are age appropriate. But I just don't feel like we've gotten to the meat of the matter, and I've never got to talk to you about my process. I want to know, are you going to read all the books to decide? Well, and you can get to that. Like
If
there'll
we
be a,
agree or not.
yeah.
If we don't agree, then we will make a decision. If the majority does not agree with your decision.
Yeah.
We would then make a decision.
So is the appeal letter that I have in front of me each book? It's not clear to me what the appeal is. Does anyone understand it?
Okay, so let me make a comment specifically to what you're addressing. And I am looking at it right now. And I'm looking at it. And I will tell you, when I originally read the letter, I didn't realize that that was the appeal.
I know. Where's the appeal?
Yes,
Mhm.
I initially read it. I didn't understand. I didn't understand. So that, and I haven't been involved in meetings or whatever. I had the same question. And so there is gray area as to what is being appealed.
And I think that's worth clarifying before you do all this work.
Right.
Because you'll end up where I am, where you've done good work, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So,
So,
mhm.
and this is my first time talking to everyone. I am at a position, and I appreciate your comment about having a goal and objective.
Right.
It helps.
That's a world I have to live in.
Mhm.
And so as I sit here and as I'm evaluating the comments and as I'm listening and as I'm reading, part of me is leaning towards, and Sarah, not anything.
I can handle a discussion. I can,
Yeah.
because I think there's some gray areas in all of this.
There.
I agree. Again.
What's the appeal?
So what is the appeal? Because it doesn't.
Because it should be per book,
Yeah.
and it
Right.
should say this one got moved. I think it should have stayed and been labeled. It should say this baby book stayed in kids, but I think it should be an adult and be labeled. It doesn't say what the goal is. Now, do the community get to do that? I don't know. Maybe that's what you all get to do, and maybe that's why this is hard.
Yeah.
I'm not offended by having a good discussion about it, and we haven't had a chance, so I'd like to.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I'm looking at the handwritten
List.
list right here. And in my head, the sequential process
Mhm.
would describe the book, the decision,
Right.
the appeal process, the decision, what I'm appealing as what the decision was.
Yeah,
But
but it's not.
clearly being demonstrated if I'm making sense. Because I will tell you, as I read this, and because I was looking towards, okay, as a board member, I'm gonna have to make a decision. I support the library director and totally,
Right.
you know, all your decision and it's prudent and sound and all of that. And as a board member, I'm obligated and have responsibilities to also look at this too. But I don't have a clear definition as to what is being appealed, like. So,
It sounds like it was a terrible event of miscommunication, which I see clearly.
Mhm.
And that's the complaint,
Mhm.
which is valid.
and
But it's not making you do what you think you have to do. And I want you to
Gotcha.
be clear on that.
Right.
Yeah,
We didn't.
no, we didn't.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. So I don't think that's the reason to just not do anything. I just wanted to be able to voice that.
and
And I've made assumptions and done work based on those assumptions that I don't know were accurate. So I think we need to be more conversation about it.
clear.
Mhm.
We do need to achieve data. I mean, I
Yes.
think the criteria that we can evaluate the content is sound. I mean, we did that and did it.
But here's the thing we haven't gotten to. The reason half the community has been upset and the other half of the community is upset is this particular challenge came out of the February meeting, the statement Bill made, and the argument was these books should not be in the library. Then you all decided you weren't going to remove any books, which I view as a win for libraries in the First Amendment. These books can end up wherever in this library. Okay? They will not hurt my feelings. I can handle it. That takes some of the angst out of the decision making. But there's so many more decisions then, right? About where and what. And there's been a lot and it's taken forever and we've canceled meetings. And so I apologize to the public and to the people who did the good work of making me challenge, because that was a lot of work, right? I know it was. The thing I did not put in the letters was the challenge was made because these books address genders and all the things about gender ideology, and they should not be in the library because of that. And I roundly reject that argument. Is that what you're all talking about? Or are we talking about if it's sexually explicit? Because if it's sexually explicit, we have a definition of that now. We didn't before. Some of this community think gay character equals sex equals should not be here. Some think sex is all the parts of your body you use for sex. You know, like, I mean, like, and we have the sex ed book, and yes, I'm willing to have those debates, but if we're having a moral, ethical argument that we need a lawyer for, I want to have it.
I need to address that.
Yeah, you have, and I appreciate it. Mhm.
This is not about LGBTQ. People can challenge whatever the book they want. That can be their opinion,
Mhm.
that they don't want books in the library. We all voted on this board that we're not going to remove any books. Personally, for me, this is not about that at all. For the challenges. The challenge was, but if a book is challenged, I'm gonna look at our criteria.
Okay.
And that's why I can't just go by what the librarians ordered, because they actually have a bias on what kinds of books they order. And there are many books that are geared LGBTQ plus, however many pluses there are, that are actually have sexual content. And that's not my fault. That's not anybody else's fault. That's just what's reality right now.
Mhm.
So the fact that some of those books may have had me to the adult section is not me having bias, again, being a homophobe, racist, whatever people screamed at me a couple years ago. That's not true. The fact that those books have that content is not my fault. It's the author who wrote it and the people who ordered it who put it in the children's section. And that is what needs to be corrected. It is not about people's sexual orientation. I do not care anything about that. And it makes me very furious that I keep hearing people scream at me at meetings that I have all these biases about that when they do not know me. And that is not true. And they've been painting the whole board as having the same opinion. We're all individual people and we're trying to do what's best for the community. And that is not what this is about. Thank you for bringing it up, Sarah.
You're welcome.
So, Dawn, I agree with you. And I appreciate you saying that that's not what it is about for you. It is what it was about for the challenge. And if I understand what Sarah wants clarification on, is are we going to be voting on this? Or are we going to be voting on whether there's a gay character in a book in children's.
We are going to be voting on this. And I bet that some of the books that were already moved
Mhm.
were probably put on that list because they were LGBTQ, but they fit the criteria. And that's not my fault. That's just how it is.
Right.
So that makes us.
Okay.
We're in this for a second. According to our etiquette of meetings, we don't. That's what we legally. There's a big going allowed, it's allowed. All right, I apologize, and I just wanted to say, from an etiquette, rather.
It's allowed in public.
All right. I apologize.
And I would like to talk about that too, because it's just like reading some of these books. Okay, so I've read like a variety of the books, just so that y'all know. Read some of the parenting books. I read some of the teen mega books. I've read the teen nonfiction books. I have read adult parenting books, and I have read just books in general, nonfiction, teen, tween, juvenile. Within some of those books, I totally, within the ones that, okay, some of them, okay, like let's just say, one of them that I read was just actually, it was a skater doing things, and she wanted to be called, she's a non-binary person. Okay, so that particular book was perfect, and it didn't need to be moved. It didn't need to go anywhere. It was perfect as to where the decision was. Other books and if you're reading cover to cover, and by the way, I read those books cover to cover when this challenge was put before us. It's to my understanding with all the paperwork that these books were not read cover to cover. So again, you're putting this before the board without true, clear definition as well. Some of the teen graphic novels, okay, so cover to cover, just because it has two characters of the same sex, I believe that was correct as to where it was placed. It was some of them that I read without the content. Now, after further reading a couple of other ones, there was some sexual content in some of those after I had read, after our committee meeting, a few others. So it's like for the other ones that I looked through, I tended to find maybe some of those ones that there is a graphic picture, there is something that should at least have maybe a label or to that nature. So that's some of them, 100%. That's where they should be. And kudos for all of the work and the hours and the time that have went with this. But that's just my stance. Just because it has, okay, so do you have two characters of the same? Okay, it's in the proper section, in my opinion. Although, when you see some of the other books that do have graphics before you, I think that would be unacceptable to be in the teen area.
Or even very descriptive, because I
Yes.
also read a handful myself, and I found a couple that were fine. They didn't need any to say whatever they were, but there were some that had some that I
Very descriptive, in meaning very descriptive when you're seeing this. And let's just cut to the chase. It's showing, okay, let's be very descriptive. Here's how exactly you would want to do penetration. Here's exactly what might work for you. Here's what would work good for a clitoris. Here's what worked good for this way. Oh, here's what worked good work. That is very explicit, and that is detailed information.
So that should get the label or
So
move.
that should get the label.
Labeling and or move. And or move. Yeah.
So, Bill, what do you think about following the definition?
Well, right.
I'm perfectly fine with it. As a matter of fact, what my personal opinion is may be different and is different from what I voted on and advocated for in terms of policy. My personal opinions are based on personal issues. My younger brother, my younger brother, who was 3 years younger than me and passed away of HIV, he was molested as a child multiple times and entered into the homosexual realm and ultimately died of HIV. That definitely colors my personal experience of the injustice that happened to him. I do not like some of the labels or names that have been called or that I've been identified as, such as racist. For those who like to make that claim, well, I'm married to a woman who's 49% American Indian and also Hispanic. My children are mixed. My grandfather grew up on a reservation. His father was 100% Indian, who was killed by Indian police. I am a Melungian. You can look it up if you want to see what Melungian is, from Virginia and the Appalachians. That's where my father was raised, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my great-great-grandfather, my great-great-grandfather, going back to pre-revolutionary days. Melungians are mixed race between Caucasian, American Indian, and African American. I am not a white racist.
Which is,
And I just want to make it clear, I despise,
right.
I despise being called those names for that very reason.
So if we're all in agreeing that we're going to use this thing,
And I'm pretty, I like the form. I think it
then
is.
once clarification on what the challenge actually is, how we're going to manage to review 200+ books. Over an extended period of time, that won't be done in this time period. I would recommend we take blocks of 25 books at a time. That gives us. So that's what the community will
Right,
get.
yeah, right. I'm just saying,
Right.
that's what I would like to see, because it would make it a lot easier. I really don't want to sit down and read 250 books of this nature in a setting. I can do it, but I really.
But it would have to be over the course of time. So
Yeah.
again, this would need to go back to committee, in my opinion, to understand what the actual challenge is. Before this board, I mean, someone that's read 40 of these books and that too, some of them, they go quick. Other ones take, I don't, I mean, if you're reading cover to cover, you're not skimming. Some of them take time, I mean, chapter books and that too. So I would say this has to go back to committee again to determine as to how, if we're going to read these books. And first off, I think we need to clarify exactly what this challenge is again before the board. So much work and hours has been spent by our director and our librarians to go through these books.
So I'm gonna address also, and I was gonna say it from comments later, if I thought maybe I talked about it before to call the public, so people can yell at me where I guess. So I think one of the reasons that we're having these book challenges about the LGBTQ plus books is the fact that libraries in general and the literary world in general has become extremely unbalanced. So currently what's happening in the literary world, and I just found this out, and I'm not calling you out on it, and Sarah, I'm sure this is done everywhere. Currently, when they're looking at books to order, the way they figure out what books are recommended, which would be, new books that people like, is they're looking at reviews from different societies. Those are all left wing. And it's not just LGBTQ plus, it's not just gender. They're all, you will have the time to speak, I'm now speaking. Sarah agreed with me. This is actually how it is. You can laugh about it, but this is reality. And what happens is if a patron requested a book and it was not reviewed by a reputable source, the book would not be ordered. So currently, for banned book weeks, just to let you know, even though there was a display about sexuality and gender as banned books, the only books that are currently banned from Cromaine Library that were not allowed in were conservative books because they were not reviewed by a literary society because they're all left.
Those books are not banned from coming.
They were not being ordered because they were not reviewed.
Different from not.
That's
Oh,
it.
that's
Banned,
implicit.
it's
That is
shadow banned.
implicit. Yes, it is.
They're shadow banned because you've never ordered a book, you can't remove it. So they've in effect been banned without anybody knowing it because we did not know this was a process. It's not Sarah's fault. I'm sure this is being done at libraries everywhere. So if you wonder why the collections are left leaning, that is one of the reasons. The second reason is that the people that are in charge of all the departments in the library, probably most of them here, have been brought up to have very left-leaning views. So when they're ordering books, they have implicit bias and they're ordering those books because they think that's what's best for the community. I would bet that the percentage of books that are being ordered for this library are not balanced. This community is great because it's 50-50 at least. This community has strong representation from people on the left, and the right, and in the middle. But the problem is the library, the point of the library, the goal of a librarian is to be able to give information to the public and knowledge. And that knowledge shouldn't be filtered by what they think is appropriate. That's censorship. So currently that's what's happening. So the library should be giving the knowledge that the public needs. That is their job. And the public should be able to find it. So by not ordering things that people want and not labeling things appropriately, people that come to this library cannot find what they want, and then they can't figure out which ones they don't want. It makes it difficult. I'm wondering what people went to school for so long that they can't do that job. That is their primary job. The rest of the stuff is icing. So that is a problem, and that is why you're getting these book challenges. We all should be able to get along together. Everybody should be happy with seeing all the information. It should be easily accessible for everyone, and it should be balanced, and it currently isn't. And that is a huge problem, and that is going to be fixed with this library.
So can I ask the same thing here? So what I'm hearing you say is that being nonpartisan is very important.
Yes.
It is.
Yes, and currently we do not have all the sides of issues, and I'm telling you, it's the truth. You can deny it if you want, but this is how things have happened because of the way universities have taught, the way the literary world has gone. If you disagree with the view on the left, you're labeled, and if people don't say anything. And that time is done. We all need to listen to each other because if we don't speak the truth. And if we speak the truth and talk to each other, then people don't get attacked and shot when they're trying to peacefully talk to people. And that's because people aren't allowed to hear the truth because everything's being filtered by the media, by everybody. And it only causes more division. And I'm tired of it. Everybody needs to listen to everybody. Stop shutting out people that you do not agree with.
And I think we've had a good few conversations in the last few days about that, and I'm open to that perspective. I do think we need to refocus because, as you can see, it gets really hard, right? I still have the challenge or the appeal letter in front of me, and I do think it's in here. You just have to read it a few times.
It would help if the committee would, if we would go back to the committee for clarification in terms of objectives, what we want to see with the challenges. And then
Okay.
you can determine.
Well, before you vote to do that, I and the other book challenge form signers are appealing to the board to consider a request for removal for each book for minors. Now, they couched that in right before the questions for the board at the end. Second page.
So they were asking these to be removed.
To be removed. Now, you've decided not to remove them. So
Right.
is removing them to another spot enough? Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
And perhaps we do it in a different meeting and we invite the challenger to talk. Because perhaps that would be helpful. Because I don't know that it's appropriate here, right? But I think that that could be helpful. And I don't know that we need to do that with every, like, we're trying to make it process driven, but I feel like that could be helpful. Correct? Okay. Because I think it would be good to get clarity before you do all this work.
Mhm.
And I don't keep saying work like it's hard. This is my job,
It's a lot
right?
of work.
Yeah.
Right.
I just don't want you to spend 6 more months and then be mad that you did it if it's still not going to meet the need and you could say, we're not removing it, we're done. That could be an answer.
Well, per policy.
We're not removing
So,
books. Right.
so you could
Right.
be done. but you seem to all want to read them and make sure you agree with each decision, which is a valid desire,
Yeah, and
right?
and I respect
Mhm.
decisions. But I feel that the board members have obligation to do due diligence
Mhm.
to support decisions. And so that's why that is said, without being in the committee and then listening, I feel that we need to look at these books,
Mhm.
these books.
And the hard thing is there's judgment in each decision. There's judgment in each decision. Yeah. So,
But
mhm.
that's why I like this.
Mhm.
Is because there are line items that
Mhm.
the measurement can be made against.
Mhm.
And then not only is there definitions that could be used for measurements, because we're not, for religion and politics. So
Mhm.
whenever I look at this, I'm looking at it from a definition perspective, from a data perspective, whereby sexually explicit performance means blah, 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 blah. And then
Mhm.
not only do we have to read it, compare it against these definitions, we need to even cite the page number where we found it. So from my perspective,
It's more specific.
driven,
More specific.
data-driven, implicit numerical references, documentation as to what was read and compared against the definition. So I'm approaching it from a data perspective.
Would the
We
board be comfortable saying they disagree with the premise that these books should not be here at all because they have gay characters?
No,
I'm not-
no, I don't agree with that. I don't,
Because I feel like that is part
The
of,
First Amendment protects the right.
The right.
to
Right.
be in-
okay,
and like.
that's good for the community
And I want to
here.
agree with that too, because reading
Mhm.
several of those books,
Okay.
right, like I had said too, some of the books were just, some different. Okay, just because it has
It's
two
just about the
characters or just-
sexuality,
Right,
sexual
Correct.
explicitness, not ality.
that's
Excuse
to
me.
be where it is, yeah, right, right, right.
I'm saddened by the fact that that is interjected into the discussion, because that's not the point. The point is, and we're not using the word pornography, we're not using the words LGBTQ, and then, I'm getting distracted, I apologize.
Mhm.
It's hard as it is, try to ignore the sign.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm
They're
getting
not worthy of that
Yeah.
consideration.
I'll refocus. So, okay. Yes, we're talking about that, so let's focus on it. So, we're buying, again, definitions and data
Right,
to compare words, and we actually have things, words that can be utilized. So that's the perspective I'm coming from. And if I need to say it on the record,
Mhm.
for documentation purposes, I'm not approaching it from an LGBTQ perspective. I'm not, as I say, so for the record, and whatever people are entitled to their opinions, but I'm stating that I'm data driven, looking at it from a definition and a word perspective with a documented
Mhm.
analysis
Mhm.
whereby I can cite a page number. And so, I believe I'm intelligent enough to read a book. And I believe I'm intelligent enough to know what a definition of the word is. So I believe that I would be qualified to read some of these books and make that book and make that documentation that's necessary. So I wanted to express my opinion and let the board know where I stood on this. And again, state that I have utter confidence in Sarah's decisions and her and staff, what they've done. But as a board member, I feel obligated to do my due diligence also.
Does the board want to read every book that comes into the library?
At this moment, no.
It's a question I've had from the public.
Well, I think we need to stick with policy.
Okay.
And what was that in place and address it from the scope of the vote change. And where did that question come from?
The staff have asked me that. Should they just want to know though, from what you just said, Dawn. Because we're basing our things on reviews, biased as they may be. Right? So that's the trick. But they can't find review sources. If there are some, let me know. Yeah.
Because I don't understand why people think that the only people that, and I'm very confused too, because is it that the librarians feel like the only issues that people in the LGBTQ community care about is gender? I mean, what, like.
No, that's just this challenge. This challenger was focused on that. So again, we're talking about global things and so don't let me get my back up. But we're making global decisions and making statements that aren't focused on this challenge and the point of it. So you can vote. It's been difficult because this challenge has set the tone for these discussions and we don't have any answer to what we think about it.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
just. So I don't know whether.
Looking at what.
I think I heard you say that the focus of the challenge has been gender. So that's been the focus in the one. Okay, so, statement, period. My analysis of the book isn't through that lens. It's looking through the lens of the definition of site. So also I understand what you're saying. So if that is the focus of what the challenge has been, again, going back, as our job and the obligation of the board is to do the analysis based on the policies and the definitions set forth.
But
Okay,
when we're
it sounds
saying-
like you're in
okay,
consensus. It sounds like you've come to consensus. It does. So, I mean, we don't have to keep going. I feel like I got to say a few questions. 2 questions. Yeah, we are. So let's get there.
So going back to the focus of the challenge, and that's what this is about. Some of the books that I read did not have to do with LGBTQ. Okay,
Which
some of them, it was like witchcraft.
No, but
Okay, so it's like, but it wasn't.
But it was trans witchcraft, transmorgraphy.
No.
We gotta look at it. We gotta look at it. Every book was about a trans or gender topic.
With procedure with this, so it's like if this challenge was specifically for that.
It was.
Okay.
It was. It's Bill's statement and the actions that resulted from it. And so I just feel like we can take another year to get to this conversation or we can have it. Right? So I think we should vote because I feel like you're at a consensus. I think you'll all vote to do it. And that's okay with me.
What are we voting?
Didn't you make a motion?
No.
No? Okay.
I think we should entertain.
Seeking clarification.
Right, to refer this maybe for clarity. I think that's. what-
Right.
So we're not.
No, we're not.
So this should go, okay, so.
That's another month.
Well, okay,
Okay.
so I move that we put this back before committee to talk to the challenger
Yeah.
and get clarification as to what the challenger would like to do.
Are you proposing
The
to
change
with the
within-
gender in or
Well, I would think,
stating what?
let's get a second and then go into discussion.
Well, I need
Because we
to, well, no,
we need a second in order to go into discussion. So is there a second to your motion?
What?
well, I,
Not to go to move this back into committee for discussion.
right,
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I am, okay, so I am recommending that this particular challenge goes back to committee for clarification.
That's what we,
For,
The appeal, not the
let me,
challenge.
yes,
let
for the
me,
appeal, yes.
for clarification of the appeal.
Okay.
And what the appealers are asking us to do as a board. Are you asking us to remove the original appeal was to remove the books. As a board, we have said that we are not removing books. Does the challenger want us to move these to different sections to do that? What is the challenger asking? And I would state that the challenger, we should have a challenger come to committee and discuss it with committee.
Well, I think what we should do is ask the committee to just add clarification boxes, removing to a different section.
The appeal form.
Yeah, on the appeal form. We should add a process to the appeal form. We should.
Well,
I think it's a vote. Because the person-
Yeah,
They can
they
still.
can want that. Yeah.
But we can decide. not
Right, we
to
decide,
do that.
right.
And so I think it's irrelevant what they want. It's that they're appealing the decision that nothing was done with certain books. Does that make sense? Like if it weren't made of a rule, right?
some books were moved.
So, like.
It'd be helpful to know.
Right, I don't to make an assumption about which books to review.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Either,
That's right.
And if the repeal is to, I want these books removed, then I think we can just vote on that, say no.
Correct.
And then
Correct.
I guess if you want the book removed, you can still look at the book and decide if it should be labeled and moved.
Yeah, we keep, right, that's right. That's
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 for the form.
That's-
for
per the form. Yes.
It
But
might be.
It's because we can't, because we agreed not to do that, that doesn't mean that's not what they desire. But we can do what we can do, which we agree
We've been
to.
upright with
We're
the
not gonna change
negotiations
something's
that we're
opinion.
bound. Absolutely.
But we can do our due diligence and do what we feel is right based on what books are brought to us.
And so we're going back to committee
So I'm saying,
and seeking clarity by inviting, by inviting the calendar to committee.
yes.
Okay. And
Then I would also request for the committee to create policy for us to follow on reviewing the number of books. And I would recommend blocks of 25 per month.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
That was already.
Okay, good, because that would take us
If-
basically a
if
year to get through everything, but that's manageable. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm disappointed that we're gonna send it back to committee. No, I don't think you do.
Because I honestly feel, well, it's all the books.
Yeah.
If we turn ourselves and just start reviewing it, because the person appealed this stuff globally, clearly they want to remove stuff. I mean, that's what they originally wanted and they won't remove. Why don't we all just look at the books instead of taking it out of one, making everybody wait? Let's just start with 25 books and start looking at them. Because honestly, if this doesn't happen now, it's gonna happen next week, and we're just dragging our feet on it. If the person said they wanted them removed, they wanted so much removed, let's just look at them. Right.
so from a process perspective, it's we are setting precedent. So that means that if somebody appeals, they can send in a letter that says, I appeal. And sign it.
Because we didn't clarify what we wanted before, that's on us, and they didn't have a process. And they can still say, I want the book for me. They can still say,
But it's for clarification, like that would be inadequate.
It says in the policy, the appeal must specify the library material being appealed and the reasons for requesting the reversal. I do think that's in the letter.
Mhm.
So I apologize for poking that bear, but it wasn't clear to me.
Wait, we did not have that in the policy.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Uh-huh.
Okay.
And so that's not new. It's always been there.
So this would help me. This would help me. This would help me. Because Sarah, I hear you.
Yeah.
And so if that's how you feel, what would help me? Let's define what the appeal is through this conversation, so that we have a goal and we have that to work for. So
Okay.
we stop making assumptions. Let's define what our task is. So let's read the letter. Let's define it so that we know, because I'm a little bit unclear still, but if we define it, so I think I heard you say the appeal, I'm processing, so give me a moment to formulate words. So I believe what the appeal is the appeal, we're not removing the books. And I think the appeal is they still want the books removed. So if we define it as such, we know what decision is being appealed. Am I making sense? The decision was made to not remove the books. The decision to not move the books is what's being appealed. And so that's what we're examining. So I need help to define what's being appealed. If lack of definition, I would say to everyone, I will make the definition be that the person who brought the challenge forward wants the books removed, and the challenger is appealing the decision to not remove the books. Because I will need that to do the analysis, because I personally just need it that way. So whatever anybody wants.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same right with you, that the question I have is, are we answering the appeal? Or are we evaluating the book? And
Based on the policy, because that's two different things.
yes, answering the appeal is, I want to do this. Yes. That's different from looking at books, like all of the books for the sake of looking at all of the books and making a decision that not the direct question. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly, because I need to know, and I'll give you an example. So somebody gives me a date that I need to put the garbage up. I'm gonna appeal that because I don't want to put the garbage out on that date. So that's a very concrete construct. And so after that, that's what I need the definition. So I will define it and be able to do my analysis accordingly. So am I making sense, or am I talking in circles? As anybody?
Under the current guidelines, I think we would have to take a step in defining how we interpret remove, and not removing from the library, because we have already determined that we will not violate the First Amendment, and that the original policy in itself was a canard, as it was impossible to remove books by anyone under that auspice minus the director. I think what we could do as a board is define our actions as removal from a section into another section.
That's pretty clear when moving.
With moving
We don't have
books.
the word
Right,
removal.
right,
Anywhere in the
right.
word.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and that's already in the policy to move, to.
So Sarah, so help. Because like I said, you want to move forward and when you're looking at this, what are,
I mean, I've done my work. It's on you guys now. I don't know how to help.
Okay.
I don't.
In my opinion, the person appealed
Mhm.
what was done. So it's.
Well, the thing you all haven't gotten to is the questions in the letter. Do you all have the letter in front of you? No, you don't. The part that I'd like to hear is, I was called out for not doing something that I did do. When will the new book challenge form will be there? Why is it not available? Will Sarah Neidert do this? Will Sarah Neidert do that? That's the miscommunication part. That's the appeal.
yeah.
The appeal is Sarah didn't do this. Get her. I mean, I don't like that. Everyone's glossing over that part. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think this. Yeah, I know, and we muddled it by changing it. So I think that I don't think. Yeah, well, I am. Yeah.
agree, and the library journal, we can make this different.
Well, and we also, so the reason that public libraries have worked until now, and I don't think they always did, because in the 50s this was an issue, and in the 30s this was an issue, and when the library started it was an issue, was there is a level of trust that you have to have. I trust my staff to do what I delegate to them. You trust me to do what you delegate to me, and we've lost that. So go ahead and do the work and figure out if you trust my judgment. I'm willing to change any of these that you don't like. There's one that Kim brought to me and I said, I could see how you could say that. Let's put this label on it and move it there. We could just go that route. It could be a lot easier, but I think I would suggest, since Bill made some suggestions about process, that you have meetings another night of the week about this, because it's just going to take up every board meeting for the next year. And I've got a lot going on that isn't this, and I need to be able to focus on it. This is going to be your project. But the underlying distrust is still there. And I don't know how to fix that. I've been trying to be conversational and collaborative, and I think that's helpful.
I think it's-
Yes.
And I think you can.
And you have them.
See that?
Yeah.
Because everybody only sees their own opinion.
Yeah.
And people don't talk to each other, and they have really biased opinions about people. And they're not being open-minded at all. They don't want to hear anything else's opinion, they don't agree with it. And that's everybody.
Is there, so, for the record again, I'm not approaching it from a perspective of distrust. But.
Yeah.
Feeling
Battery's low. I have to plug in my PC.
And like I said, I think that we didn't have to do
It's okay.
from the conservative side of the community, the benefit function is extremely lopsided. It's not anyone's fault, it's just a product of how things have been done.
But for that, maybe on the ALA's,
So what
late rights.
here, we don't need to start back or down like this. What are we doing? It would be my opinion that we start looking at the books, because the person wanted to appeal it. I'm sorry they put Sarah's name on it and talked about her, but I feel like they're appealing the decision on the books, and if they still wanted to remove, and if we don't want to drag our feet, we should just start looking at them. That's my honest opinion, because we've been doing this for months, we might as well start reading them.
Just start at the top of the list, go down.
So we do 25 at a time.
Okay, so, okay, no, okay, so that's easy enough. No, no, we don't. Here's a good way to discuss it tonight already. For the books that already have been moved or labeled or what have you, personally, I don't feel per the appeal, that these need to be looked at. I believe what the appeal is saying is that
38 bucks.
Correct. Right. Correct. That's what I'm saying. Those ones we wouldn't need to read. But the other books is what I'm understanding from this appeal, that the person is not happy with the decision that the director has made with these. So they're coming to appeal the board for the ones that were not moved, if this is my understanding of that. And they're asking the board to either go along what we just voted on, to go along with what the director is stating, or vote to consider the appeal. So the appeal meaning for us to look at these books that have not been moved, labeled, moved to a different section, please understand that, not removed. So they're looking for the board to read these books and then to verify that. Each board member would therefore fill out one of these forms as you're reading the books cover to cover. So my suggestion is to have a cart available downstairs if we could pull 50 books. If we could pull 50 books, keep them behind the circulation desks so that the board members could read those. Every time you read one, we're filling out this approval process appeal form and we're turning it in. I would be happy to get a spreadsheet, full disclosure to the public as to how we have read these books cover to cover, and do a spreadsheet. After you've read the.
So we're almost come again, this it was my understanding at the last committee meeting that this was what was going to be discussed in committee and presented, it went this direction. But, if there's 50 books and we all pick one book at a time and we're reading a different book at a different time, when are we discussing? How are we making sure we've all read the book at the right time to this?
Okay, so what you're gonna do with the book, this is just an idea, with the books that's there, everyone is going to be having this. So it's just like if everybody reads, let's say you're reading one book, you're reading a different book. Once we get through those 50 books, everyone has filled out these sheets to show cover to cover. Have you seen anything? Have you filled out the sheet? Did you see this on what page is in that there for? Then we put a spreadsheet, then at the meetings after we've all read, let's say 50 books. In full disclosure to the public, this might take 90 days. It might take 120 days. It's going to take some time. So once we've read through those 50, then we bring it before the whole board to discuss. Here's where we're at. The book stays where it's at.
I think 50 is where
I think I agree with Kelly, actually.
So like 25, like do 25 at a
Because what's
time?
that?
Right.
And which month we're going to tonight.
Right,
And then
Okay.
there's a concept that we're gonna be on.
Okay. right, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
So,
bite size.
And to Sarah's point, you're done.
yes, yes.
I can put
Yes.
out reviews,
No,
but I want to give you some reviews.
No,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to say as well. This is a board issue. You have done your due
And we're the only
diligence.
people with
right.
these books. You could just put them on hold and they'll come from other libraries. So you don't have to have our special books. Oh, thank you. You're great. Computer's about to die, so don't want to lose it.
But the suggestion would be if we went through,
So we probably do that.
if we could have the first 25 pulled that are not on this list, have them on a cart. And then if everybody could fill these out, fill the sheets out, I am happy to put a spreadsheet together from all these when we do them. Stick them in my box when you finished a book, put another book there. That's what I'm gonna do.
First thing to be taking mark from it. So I think we need to be detailed in what we're writing, but.
Yeah, we need to take notes on
Any
that.
issues.
Or if there's no note sheet, just leave it as is.
Right, hence the form, right.
3%.
Right,
I mean, you're good with.
right.
But I think a lot. And if you find, and here's the thing, if I'm missing,
Don't
if
write.
you do find sexually explicit content in the book, there doesn't have to be 900 pages of it.
Right.
Just write
Here's the page number.
Mhm.
And then if someone found another page number with the same thing, it doesn't really matter. If you found sexually explicit content, it needs to be moved in legal. So it probably won't be as, hopefully not as difficult as, yeah, because one instance. And I think that most of them will be fine. I'm hoping. But there are gonna be some that we might find issues with, as we found.
Well, what you just said concerns me because I didn't move and label any. I left and labeled or I moved,
Right,
which is in the memo that I wrote.
The ones
Right.
you did, did you still label them?
No,
Uh,
that's in the memo that I've
Right.
shared with you,
right.
that I've
Right.
shared with all of
But
you
they have
and the
been moved.
community. But they've been
They
moved
have been
because
moved.
my
And that's
concern about labeling adult
appropriate.
books is if you label an adult book, then I have to label so many adult books.
Right, and that wasn't. right.
So I just want you all to understand that
Right.
before you go down this road. Only ones that stayed in teen got a label.
Correct,
Only ones that went to adult didn't.
right.
Well, you're agreeing, but he doesn't know. So
But
I'm
you-
making
but
sure
you
you all
don't-
understand. Because that's a debate we haven't had yet either. Is that okay? Or are you thinking about that too?
My personal opinion, the city probably still should be labeled.
No,
Because
they're
they-
they're
A
in the adult, they're in the, it's an adult.
Understood, but a child can go into the adult section, they are not.
And that makes my job untenable. Because now everyone's gonna challenge the Bible and the sexy books that are in adult. There's a lot of sexy books in adult and I cannot.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I can. This will be all I do.
We still have.
Right. Correct,
Yeah.
Supervised by an adult.
correct.
So are we?
I think that's worth thinking about. We're trying.
The question is, are we?
Yes.
Okay.
I I totally agree, adult is adult is adult. You
Right.
can't label.
But we're not enforcing that a child can't check out an adult book. That's what we're getting at. Yeah. And a label won't stop them because you've seen the labels. They're
Right.
non-stopping, right? I mean, they're just there.
Right, you just said.
Yeah. So,
Another point of clarification, we are still making an assumption about what the challenger wants.
mhm.
So if the challenger comes back and says, actually, I want you to look, why didn't you look at those 38 books? Right, like, because we're making an assumption that they.
We're trying so hard to be non-biased that it's impossible. And-
They can still want to remove.
They can still.
We're making an assumption because we're making an assumption.
But that's fine. Yeah. And that wasn't written.
If the challenger is down.
So what I found with my staff, who I deeply respect and delegate to, there were assumptions on everybody's part. And so the farther we go into this, the more you'll learn that lesson about why we rely on reviews and why we have to. Because people think buying books for a community is like doing an Amazon search and clicking buy. It's so much more than that. And I'm sorry that it's hard, but like, let's wrap it up because we got more on the agenda. I mean, I don't think we can do the rest of this. I think we should go to committee after I just said don't go to committee because apparently we need to. I'm just disappointed that my staff will still be mad at me for having to tell them to wait another month to get your decision.
Yeah.
And if we want to put all of them there.
Well, here's the thing. We do not need to have a cart because then I don't want them all removed from circulation. Just put them on hold as you'd like. You all have cards. You know how to do it. If you don't, I will teach you. So get your list, put 2 on hold. They'll be delivered to the hold shelf. You can check them out and then check in every month about how the status is going and then have it come together meeting at some point. Like just start that way. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I can help you learn how to do holds. If you don't do holds, it's the best way to function because then you don't have to even worry if it's ours. It can just come from any library in our 65-member library consortia. Because a lot of them, not all these books are in every library, but they're in lots of them. So we don't have to penalize this community by taking them all out of circulation.
Just, you know,
Sure. Mhm.
Who's taking the kind
So what do we want to do? We want to do like the first 25? Or they're
Alphabetical?
alphabetical.
Yeah,
Right.
a minute.
2 minutes. Right. Right.
They want to assign themselves
Right.
25
Right.
adult nonfiction.
Right.
Mhm.
Right, so that was the point. And I
Would you like a librarian's help? I mean, I could help more.
Right.
But I mean, when this was brought to me, it was children's books, and I said, sure,
Right.
let's do it. I can read 50 children's books, but it's not.
Right.
And they're skimmable. And let's say it, we skimmed. I didn't check every page for sex. I looked for themes. I looked for appropriateness. Usually with pictures, you can tell pretty quick. But again,
So what are we doing?
I think we should talk about it in committee and we should, someone other than me, clarification, because I have lost the communication thread there.
I mean, serious,
They do.
there is not a, we are taking this forward. And so it's a reality that just takes time. So
I appreciate having the chance to at least explain some things. I think there's more. There's confusion in the community about the pink dot and the blue dot and the this dot, and people are sending Bill pictures that he sends to me or like, why isn't this labeled? There's a lot of confusion. You will find out when you start the process. But doing it right doesn't make anybody happy. So I think it's just, yeah. I mean, yeah, you're just doing it. Yeah,
Right.
that's part of leadership. Okay. So instead of moving, I don't even know, what are we deciding? What are you voting?
So you think that this needs to go, this should go back to committee and
No.
committee should.
Don't look to me.
All right.
Process, but again,
Right.
there's short books and there's long
Right.
books, there's adult books and there's children books and like. And we just do the youngest age first and just do it.
Great idea.
How do you sort that
Well,
from
okay,
that list I
so-
made?
So I think that, okay, I'm just saying, I think that unfortunately, this needs to go back to committee. And I do think that we need clarification from the challenger. Specifically, what are they looking at? Are they looking at for the ones that have already been, are they looking to remove? Are they looking for us to read these per section? Unfortunately, I think that that's what has to happen. We can have a special committee if we need to do that to discuss this. Special committee meeting with the challenger.
Sounds good.
Just saying. Because it's like we can't, and it should go back. I.
That was my goal in the beginning, but
my
go
goal
slow.
too.
Because you just realize later what you did wrong. So just
Right.
go slow. I'm sorry I pushed. I retract my earlier statement. You know,
Right. To say the least. But this is at this point out of the director's hands and it's up to.
I do
committee
have the
and it's
list
up
sorted
to-
by location, so you can at least get an idea of age that I thought was appropriate. That's the list that says where things are. That's on the website. I'm just looking at the stuff on the website, so. And I don't mean to be petty. I will help if you need help. It is my job. Right.
It's a board
It
responsibility.
is,
Right.
yes, but I can
It's the
help with
board-
concepts.
It's where you've done your job.
Yeah.
So it's the board's responsibility now. Again, my suggestion would be to take this back to committee, to talk with the challengers about this specifically. What are they looking for?
We should only speak to one person.
To one person.
Mhm. 'Cause that's all I've
The
done.
main challenge.
Yeah.
Right, you've got.
Yeah.
Represent.
Yes.
Right, okay. the one
No, she
person-
asked to.
Yeah.
She asked to. So the person that asked to represent all of it.
Because I think that muddling that will make it even harder.
And
I think.
I
Is
know.
everybody okay with that? So we can move on.
Sure. What's it say?
And we
on
can
the
have a special committee meeting.
notes?
If
Okay,
that would work, maybe, or
Maybe if it works.
if it works, and if not, at the next committee meeting.
sure.
Well, I mean, honestly, we should figure out.
Right,
And maybe you even have a phone from you done fill out, you know, what is there you're changing?
right.
Right, because
Or-
they're
or could- or
representing-
could-
representing multiple
People.
She's representing multiple people when because they may have different opinions.
Yeah.
But they need to consolidate. So would it be okay? Would it be okay if like a couple members of the committee or all three of us got together with this person and talked?
I would appreciate being.
I want the committee to be part of this. So if we can, get the contact information and then we can set it up with the person.
Sure.
That, yes. It'd be an assumed, it would need to be in person, yes. And set a date that works for, just, yeah. Obviously, not to have a quorum, but for the committee, all right.
Okay.
Okay. Moving
Legal representation for the libraries of William Spina, Alliance Defend Freedom. I think we need a motion.
We did have a conversation. The process for developing professional service standards that we've used previously and making sure that we have to be consistent and transparent with the community. The vendor choices we have made in the past and you guys have been a part of it. The committee comes up with, or reaches out or gets proposals, something written, right, information from the old school potential vendors. Makes a recommendation on the top 2 or 3. Comes to the board in an open session. We identify the need to finally come up with a standard list of questions to ask both finalists.
Well, hold on, I'm gonna interrupt you just.
And then at the end, we invite the two finalists on the same day to answer the question, and then we have the discussion. And that is how we have selected professional vendors, our landscape design firm, the strategic planning firm. And this would be the first, I mean, it should have come out of committee. We didn't get any information out of committee. There's nothing to look at. There's nothing to compare. There's nothing to consider or think about. And I think for transparency, members of the community are going to come to us and say, how did you make that decision?
The reason the decision is being made and we're looking at this law firms is because there's potential for frivolous lawsuits from our.
I'm not saying it shouldn't.
Yeah, there's not another law firm that will represent us pro bono.
Then include that as part of the conversation.
That has been included as
Right,
part of
but
the
we don't,
conversation. And at
don't.
our last board meeting, I was asked to create a meeting.
Let her speak. Let her speak. Let her
I
speak.
personally feel like this is being railroaded without following our procedure. Without doing this and having conversations about the very, yes, pro bono is absolutely something that should be on the list and discussed. But having something be pro bono is not the only factor into going to choose legal representation. We have things in our policy giving preferential consideration to local firms, right? I think it is completely premature. Not that we can't have this conversation, not that we can't have him back to answer questions, but this shows favoritism to one firm over another because we haven't compared anything, which is our process that we have done previously. And if a member of this community comes to us and says, why did you skip the process? What is the answer?
The answer is, a couple of our board members are very worried about the cost of legal representation with changing any of the policies. And because the ALA lawyer said we couldn't do anything, people were very worried about money. So now there's a firm that has agreed to represent us pro bono. No one else is going to do it. So there isn't another choice. And if we don't ever need to do it, it's great.
But as long as there are other choices, the cheapest option is not always the best option. I'm not gonna go with the cheapest person to come in and do significant work on mine. So I'm gonna go with the best qualified person. And to be perfectly clear, it needs to be a part of the conversation that this is in fact a partisan front. And it's important to you and it's important to me that we be non-partisan. And I think that it would be hypocritical, to be perfectly honest with you, to steamroll through a partisan organization when we have said over and over and over again.
Let's say, look, we're perfectly fine with the ALA recommended lawyer that was also.
She wasn't recommended by ALA. She gives trainings to MLA,
And that's
Same thing.
but it's not. And that's offensive to me as a librarian. Well, that's okay. But stop calling her the ALA lawyer. Call her the Foster Swift lawyer, who's still our legal representation.
so.
Yeah.
Fine, but we need to follow our procedure.
And I would like to say, I think the legal costs would be the last thing we have to worry about.
Yeah, there goes.
If we get some dues, the damages would be excessive. There was precedent recently in 27 settlement cases, different
It is
dynamics. But there are a lot of lawsuits out there that have been settled and costed the libraries or neighboring communities related to the neighboring community a lot of money. So the legal costs are neither here nor there. But
Like, I don't wanna be basing a decision on something like Google.
Well, that's why we're.
No, but question, we need to follow our policy of selecting a vendor, which is in the policy, it's in the procedure, and it's in there for a reason. Because
taxpayer-funded organizations should not have leadership who will make choices and say, I know this guy, he's our best, right? We have.
Right, I get it.
In the committee meeting minutes, it says President Bowen suggests Lauren's scheme. Not the committee. We don't have any information to go on, and this is not the way we operate. It's not the way we operate. We are thorough, we are careful, and we are able to show the documentation behind our decisions, because if we don't, we are exposing ourselves to another.
Well, why don't you come up with another law that will represent us if we get sued, that it is failure you for whatever people in our community have a problem with trying to be unbiased and have side issues, why don't you come up with another law firm?
Well, ideally, that's the committee's job. That's how the Community Relations Committee did it. You reached out, identified, interviewed, got information from multiple landscape designers, from multiple strategic planning organizations, right? That's the process. It goes to committee. The committee provides information for the board to consider as a whole in open meeting, transparent to the public. And then we have a conversation. We come up with some finalists and a standardized list of questions, which is again, a process that is intended to protect organizations from showing favoritism and being accused of showing favoritism. You ask the same questions and then you compare apples to apples. And then we have a discussion and we vote. Like,
And that was the discussion we had at committee, but it isn't the conclusion the committee came to, right? I mean, that was suggested.
So this was discussed at committee.
Yes, and I was asked to set up a meeting with him. Initially online, he could not make that, but he was able to make this board.
When was that?
That's why he was here.
When was that though? But that's not true, Bill.
Yes, it was.
No, it's not. We were going to do it in September and then we canceled that meeting for security
Right.
clearance. But there's not been a problem with getting him.
No, there has been.
No. Did you tell us? I never heard about it.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, when? Yesterday in that email?
No.
Oh, did you guys hear about it in personnel? When we met this month? But we didn't meet this month.
We didn't meet.
We're not having good process. I don't feel secure in our process.
Process and procedure.
Again, data-driven policy and procedure. As I say, this is a vendor selection. We have to follow policy and procedure, we have to.
My question being,
This is a new topic to me.
It is.
I'm absorbing, I don't have enough data right now. And the only thing I can rely on is our policy and procedure.
Here's the part that I have to say, and I'm not part of the board. I work for you. And I'm not sure if it's Alliance Defending Freedom or something Defense Fund that you wrote us in an email, because there were two different names of the firm. Okay. Because the email yesterday said a different name. You spelled his name differently. I asked for a letter. We just spent an hour telling people this isn't about LGBTQ rights and we're bringing in ADF. I don't see how anyone can act like I have the wrong idea.
and also clarification, make sure there's no communication.
Right?
We're all on the same page.
It just doesn't fly with me. I understand, like Donna and I had a good conversation about it this week, but it wasn't this conversation. And you have not been communicating with the group at all. Which is hard for me to then administer an organization with all this popping up stuff. No, you were clear. You were very clear. You were very clear. And I like those conversations. And I think we need to have better meetings and better communication. And if we're going to interview Mr. Spina, we should do it in open session.
I mean,
Mhm.
I did not to follow the vendor We have to follow the vendor selection process.
which I brought to the committee and I was told it wasn't important.
Okay, so my question being too, several meetings ago,
Mhm.
when we're following policy, but we haven't discussed this in a long time. I believe it was Sarah that had a spreadsheet.
I brought a list.
She brought a list of several different lawyers. Has that been back to committee?
Yes.
Okay.
At this
So-
meeting.
Okay, so that list went back to committee and
And-
we discussed in committee, because I'm not part of that committee. And my understanding was that none of those lawyers had library background.
No, they were all
or-
library lawyers and we don't want a library lawyer.
They were library lawyers, okay. Okay. Right,
Mhm.
The committee,
right, would bring it back,
and like written information,
Correct.
or whatever
Correct.
it is,
right,
and shares it, so we are all communicating,
right.
all looking at the same information.
Right.
So we can have a discussion where we are not talking to the information.
So my question being again, that list
Mhm.
that we have brought before the board.
And we asked the
Okay, but
board,
did
yeah,
go to committee, so
Yeah.
again, I'm not on that committee.
they didn't look at it. They said they're all the same. They're library. Is it? Okay, okay.
What, that was my name.
But then we didn't, no,
So it wasn't, okay, so it went to committee,
But it was okay as far as the non-issue of being sued about. That was the house,
Mhm.
right? That's what I was looking at. I was not looking at what would we need if there was a frivolous lawsuit.
But if that's our goal, right,
Mhm.
then it's our goal to not get sued.
It's not our goal, but that's not our goal. That is not the goal of this group right now. Your goal,
It is my goal.
yes.
Well, it's, right, and it's my goal too, to follow policy and procedures. I am very much in agreement. We need to follow policy and procedure, and that's why I'm saying, with that original list that Sarah had brought to all of us, and that was discussed, I don't know how many meetings ago. My question being, from what I'm hearing, please correct me if I am wrong, it did go to committee. So committee then therefore decided so that would have been like the vendor choices list, for lack of better.
Mhm.
So then committee decided,
So what we talked
Okay.
about at the committee was that it's kind of two different things. And we're gonna be staying, like, should we decide to change our general lawyer at the same time as we also talked to this other legal firm about representing us with the material selection policy. We said, you know what, it's kind of two different topics. We might want to switch our general lawyer later. We are still looking at them. Kim has looked at them. There's some other options that we have. So we're not ignoring that list. But we decided that it was two different topics. And the topic of having a lawyer to represent us in general is a separate topic from having a lawyer to represent us for the material selection policy. And it would be a special case.
And I don't even know if that's considered policy because it's a different.
I mean, we still have to follow our vendor selection.
We're one ignore it.
There isn't-
gotcha, okay.
And no one is going to ask for a decision this evening.
It was not our policy to interview or ask a non-standard set of questions because it shows favoritism to a vendor when we haven't gone through the policy. We need a standard set of questions that we have discussed in advance after having information to consider so that we can ask finalists and make a well-informed, defendable
Decision as a board.
at a board, not because somebody is telling us that we have to do something. So
I don't feel like I have to do anything.
I do, I feel like I'm being railroaded into doing something and having not enough information to make a good decision. And that is not what we're here for. We're here to make good decisions. We're here to follow the policies. And again, if your goal is to not get sued, we need to be consistent and follow our procedure like we have established before for choosing a vendor. Right? Because that's what procedure does. It gives you the structure so nobody can come and say, you know,
Well,
we just did that like
And if we're talking about vendors, are we thinking about the purchasing policy? Is that what we're talking about? Because it's always been this library's procedure that the library director is authorized to contract with anyone under $5,000. So it's my choice. But I thought it'd be better policy or procedure for the board to make the choice because other library directors, yeah.
There's a lot of money. There's a lot of cost to the library.
Yeah, I see that. And other library directors told me the best thing to do is to do it in open meeting for transparency, which is why that's what I suggested. And you know,
Information, let's have the conversation.
yeah, and we were hamstrung by canceling last month because I think we would have had this conversation last month, right? But we need better communication.
So can I request that, you said there were a couple on the list that it was okay.
That we felt could represent us if we have a lawsuit regarding it.
Right, so but I don't know why you came to that decision. I don't have any information on why you came to that decision, what we're comparing.
Because I was looking at the websites and the different lawyers and the library law, the different funds and what experience they have.
Right, but that needs to be written down. Given to us all to, like, again, we've done this, we know how to do this. We did it with Sue Grissom. We did it with strategic planning groups. We're going to do it with the contractors for the community commons. And if we don't do it in this particular case, in a very sensitive, high profile conversation, we are inviting a lawsuit. Why didn't you follow your policy and procedure here? I don't want this library to spend taxpayer money on a lawsuit. There's a lot of expenses. There would be costs in our staff tonight. There would be costs in staff retention. I am taking this very seriously. And I believe as a fiduciary, it is reckless to not follow our policy and something we are going to be scrutinized. I guess that's what it's saying.
My suggestion for this would be to send this back to committee. Committee would therefore need to say and put it in a board packet and say, we've done this, this, and this. Here's the vendors that we're selection. Here's the vendors that we're selecting per the policy. And again, this all goes back to policy and we do need to follow that. So to go back to committee, nowhere does it really say in any of the committee notes that I've read that and I'm hearing that this is done and it was discussed in committee, but it would be that's good that it was discussed in committee, but it's, and I totally understand that, but it's just like, okay, so it helps as a board to make a decision. If we can see in our notes, here's what was discussed at committee, here's what happened, then bring it before the board to discuss to the public.
Right,
And that's why they were told to attend what the point was with this meeting with the lawyer and the everyone was informed of that.
right.
We were.
I didn't have the details as to what it was about. I don't have the details, right? And that allows to give us all what questions to formulate. And
So what if,
so
let me make can I make recommendations? Why don't we refrain from asking a single question and let Logan explain
No.
who he represents and what they are offering? Because we have talked about them and their representation. Yes, we have.
if this person wants to take 3 minutes and call the public and check in the public, we're saying to take 3 minutes to call the public, buy some background. And that's according to policy procedure, that's what we can do. That could be per chance a good introduction.
Please,
Some background.
please, we can't hear up here.
Yeah. So
We can't hear back here for all the stuff that's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
So just when you had a recommendation, yeah, and it was typed over. So did you want to finish? Because I was starting to write
Oh,
down.
okay,
You're suggesting
right,
back to committee,
So-
so that's personnel, correct?
personnel. Because there was discussion before from the list that was discussed in public as well. Okay, the list that we had. And so my thing with that too was saying that was discussed in committee. But for this situation, I think that we need to go back through, have it in our packets, have the information there. And to say, so that we can make an informed decision as a board to discuss this, so that we're very transparent to the public as well.
Plus, the they would like to get representation. If we have a lawsuit, like, threatening letters from the ACLU,
Mhm.
that's the only reason. we're having this conversation. It's
Correct.
because most of the public is part of what we're doing. And there's a possibility we can have a frivolous lawsuit.
Again,
We've had members of the community threaten lawsuits.
Yes, and
Right.
if you don't follow our policy and procedure,
Right.
you say,
Right,
I
I would agree, right, right, right. Is the one that has the choice system.
make it. But we need to have, options and do this.
So come up with another.
Okay, right.
Well, maybe we need to do an RFP.
Or an ad hoc committee, as if the committee doesn't want to do it, I'll sit on the committee. Pick 4 or 5, reach out to them, get information, and we'll do the process. Because what is happening to me here, seems like the committee doesn't actually care about the rest of our society. Well, then why are we being talked down for wanting information? I think we're trying to give you what information.
About a law that would be going to represent if the meter record.
That's great.
And pro bono, there's nothing to lose. There's nothing to.
There are things, there are things. Because if you don't do this right, that is a lawsuit.
Right, but he's in around, and there's pro bono, it's like, it's not about this bank. But
The money,
The people that get us sued will represent us like that.
no, what she's saying is, we're not, there's no harm in listening to what and asking the person questions or not giving them any money to do it at this time.
I agree that the call, 3 minutes of the call to the public is perfectly appropriate,
I,
but if it is a potential vendor, we have procedures, we have policies, we have standardized questions that are going to be asked at the same time from potential vendors to eliminate any possibility that some decision has been made not here.
and so going back to contracts, vendors, this has all been verbal. I should say, I haven't even seen a scope of work to state that
Right.
this service is pro bono. From a contract perspective, I'm
If you
taking,
haven't even gotten to that.
exactly.
Confusing.
So we need to do, I'm using the term RFP just as illustrative for documentation to determine the scope of services, what questions to be asked. I was gonna say, we've got a procedure for this, we've got a policy for this. We have a policy and a procedure. Anybody that's utilized, the decision goes back to the director. There are thresholds of money that we adhere to when procuring services. So at the moment, this is a very squishy process. I don't even know, with the, every day, 24/7, anybody and everybody's under the threat of lawsuit for anything. I just say, for anything. That is why it is critical to follow established steps, procedures, policies, documentation to adhere to the process. We have a process for this, and if the policy, if the committee needs, if the committee can explain what questions are going to present to the vendor or needs input, then then let's do it that manner. I was gonna say.
Which we did discuss, but it's not in the minutes because it was not agreed to.
Okay, well, perfect point. I have nothing to reference.
Mhm.
I have nothing to reference.
We were told it was essential we do it fast
Again,
and that it had to happen in closed meeting and that it was going to happen. And I'm fraught about this because we should have put it in the minutes. The minutes were so confusing for that meeting. We didn't meet this month.
right, again, is I'm sitting here with nothing to reference.
Mhm.
I'm sitting here with nothing to, as a benchmark. I'm sitting here with nothing, with no ground zero. I'm at a loss right now. As I say, that's my frustration. We need to do this systematically. We need to do it transparently. We need to do it according to policy. And we need to do it, and I reject the statement, we need to do something fast. When things are done fast, mistakes happen. And so these are serious topics. Time is not of the essence because it needs to be done right.
Do we want to make an ad hoc meeting? If the personnel committee doesn't want to put that time in to investigating multiple options, that's not what happened. We looked at the options. Did you reach out to people and ask any questions or ask for a proposal? Like, we haven't done that. But that's what we're asking them to do, right?
I guess my contention is, as I sat here, I am in the, as I sat here, I trust what the committee is discussing, but the committee comes back and presents the discussion, what we discussed, and I have nothing to reference.
This is why I am suggesting that this goes back to committee. The committee does due diligence. It sounds like some of it has been done. Okay, there was also a list that was provided to you from that Sarah had provided. And then I would say, do the due diligence, do the RFP if that's what we need to do. And do that, then put it in the packet. Let's discuss this as a board to do that. I feel that some of it may have been done and maybe you have done due diligence as a committee, but we're kind of not aware of this as a board. Okay, so I'm hearing that. I'm hearing that that's may have what was happened, but I don't see it in writing. So that's just what I'm asking. If we could send this back to committee, if we could do, to do that, by all means, please feel free to call the public. I mean, that's of course, but that's just what I'm suggesting. That gives the entire board a chance to digest, to say, okay, so then it's just like, okay, so here's who we're recommending. Here, maybe there's no one else that would do it pro bono. Okay. And to say it that way, here's what the committee has decided. And it's, again, it sounds like that discussion may have happened, but again, since we didn't have our September meeting, this all kind of goes together, so, right.
This is a complicated and delicate issue. We need to consider all aspects, and pro bono is not the only thing to consider.
And ADF has advised us in terms of the construct of the policy.
Right, but they're not our lawyer. We have not voted on it.
I understand that.
So I don't
And
think why
they
you
are
reached
also,
out.
we have also discussed this multiple times, including the assurance when people were worried about the lawsuit and spending money that we have in the bank account. That because they were offering to do this pro bono, that was a point of assurance. This is not a brand new subject. This isn't something that is just surfacing now. We have been in discussion about
Not
this
voted
from,
on it.
no, we haven't, but we have discussed this multiple times. It has been brought up over and over with me being questioned multiple times about conversations and the input many times.
And we're to discuss the procedure for a law firm.
And
It
he's,
is now,
and he is here to offer information.
well, it needs to be fair.
So I go back to instruction. I heard verbally, and lawyers speak, verbal contracts are worth the paper they're written on. Right, and so I haven't even seen a contract that states, okay, so. So we're gonna get, this is contract 101. If somebody's gonna tell you that they're gonna, it's like a free puppy. Here's a free puppy, but here's the $10,000 of vet bills that you're gonna get. So, as you say, I haven't seen any documentation that assures me that I'm not gonna get a bill.
There goes the reason where he wanted to come and address us. He explained, this is who we are.
That's fine.
This is what we would like to do. That's it. He's not asking, he wasn't asking for a long meeting, just a very short description of who they are, so that we have an understanding.
Personnel wise to do this, or do you want to talk to me?
Personal.
I don't think personnel can do it.
It's your suggestion.
It'd be forums.
Yeah, personal committees.
If it's via Zoom.
It's not going to be via Zoom. We meet in person. I mean, actually, anybody can join because that meeting is open. It's an open meeting.
Personnel, because it's your person. Yes.
Go back to personnel,
They did,
that they vet the list. I'm assuming you mean come up with a list of questions and
yes,
that would be asked
yes,
to potential attorneys,
yes,
and that the committee sort of structure the next steps. Is
Correct.
that-
yes, exactly.
If what if we don't find is another person willing to try to do that. We're interested in representing to the one. They want that's special.
Right.
And then maybe you look at switching altogether. Right. So there's, again, there's a lot of things to discuss. And we don't. That is. And if we get that, then we discuss it.
I don't know if a motion needs to be made for that, or that's just, yes, that's just your recommendation.
Can I request a 5-minute break before call to the public? 'Cause I have to use the bathroom. Okay, I can wait, but just say it. Okay.
I'm going
Yeah.
to take, a motion made to take a 5-minute break from the meeting right now.
Just 5 minutes. I just have to use the bathroom.
5 minutes.
That's a long day. You don't get paid for a holiday.
Well.
Just sit yourself. Yeah. No, I don't.
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
This one goes.
Yeah. It's so short.
Yeah.
First script. Oh, so we're on. Okay. 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 Script.
It's hard to do.
without it being highlight the open meeting pages 11 through 13. Being that's what I'll leave. Okay. Okay, I don't really, I don't think me, guys. I'm still trying to be something.
Careful, because I kind of tripped over. Be careful. You don't- No. Be careful that you don't trip, because everything should be good due to my crustiness, right?
That is where.
How are the notes coming?
Yeah.
Gonna unmute.
We're going to come back to the exception. Yeah, we're going to have comments from the board first. Excuse me. If we can take our seats, please, that would be greatly appreciated. If anyone else wants to address the board in the call to public, please make sure you fill the form out, get it to us. And then from that point forward, we'll go into that right after comments from the meeting. Is there anyone on the board that would like to make a comment about this?
When I was talking about energy balance, I think there's been a lot of stuff in the press. In the public, Facebook, everywhere, about our community being racist. And how bad Hartland is. I think it might be interesting. If the library had any room for display, we're talking about displays. If there'd be any interest in having a display about false hate crimes in our county.
Are there books on that?
No, there's, please. Oh, like, interesting. I know, but I'm curious.
Sure, I'll look into it. Thank you.
Displays against letters about false claims. Again, that people have made about racism in our community. In our knowledge. Yes, thinking Gary. No, I tried to think
Well, we're gonna ask you to please be quiet in the community. Thank you.
How diverse or racist. I think it would be interesting if we could do some research about false hate crime claims in our counties.
Yes. Very carefully about the name. Things to be perceived this way.
I'm not targeting, I'm saying it would be interesting, just a thought.
All right, so. Right?
Yeah.
Well,
No, I would like to make a comment
Yeah,
too,
other comments,
for
yes.
the board. Okay, I just want to say some positive things about Cromaine. We got a $250,000 grant.
Yes.
It would be great if that was promoted in the community, okay? The work that's been done for that, the positive work when we went before the community here and had this approved, the work that's been done for that. Let's hear about those. feel good stories as opposed to how you want to sue us and how things are going that way. I'm disgusted with it. It's just like, if you are truly here for the community and you are truly here to represent, for this library, it'd be great if you're talking about what we're doing for the common area. It'd be great if you talked about how good our director is and how good our staff is. It'd be great if you talked about the book of things that we have. When I heard a conversation from some people at work that were so excited that we had certain board games, and we went on, this one student went on about this train game that Cromaine had, and she was so excited, and they have expansion cards. It would be just great if people in this community would talk about the good things that are going on here at Cromaine Library.
Any other comments?
Agree and support. Sarah and the library perform a wonderful service for their kids. And I think sometimes that gets drowned out. And I think.
Any further comment from the board? All right, call to the public. I'm just gonna go from top to bottom. Michelle Julian, from Milford, Michigan. Yes. Yes, and as we are about to go into this, I just also want to make another comment, and this is something we have been doing in terms of our conduct in the court, call the public. Remember, the card, we have to have the name, the address, and in terms of looking at this, Roberts effectively controls fact-finding concerns authority. It's called to the public for the board. It's not a time to yell, be rude, hate, or any other criticism, petition, pet peeve, or redress of grievances against the government. You want to sit or stand near the microphone, although in a room of this size, everyone is doing that. And when comfortable, when you're at the microphone or at the podium to begin. In terms of statutory authority, MCL 750.170, just for every public meeting, any breach of the peace can exclude you from the meeting. Words, gestures, yelling, challenges, defiant, abusive, noise, things of this nature. Certain libel and slander laws still protect public officials, staff, and resident patrons. Understanding there are many witnesses to the behavior, and the recording of this lends itself to very short trials. Criticism and harsh can be okay. You want to make your comments to the chair, and if you hear me say, please stop, calm down, lower your voice, that will be a warning. We will ask you to cease disturbing the meeting and to restrain yourself or face the consequences. And we will let you know how many minutes you have and how many are left. We can call it recess for you to calm down, take a restroom break. You can call the sheriff, which we've done in the past. We can take a recess to leave the room. And in terms of this, you need to remember, and this is very important, freedom of speech can land you as a speaker in civil court. Just because you can say it doesn't mean that you cannot face consequences over what you say. And with that being said, Michelle Julian, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. I have like a thing that's already been scripted, and some of the things that, one of the points that I had made in here that I was going to talk about has been covered a little bit, and I appreciate the discussion that started with it. I'm hoping that the process continues. But I'm just going to go ahead and read this. This is the message on 1 of 3. I'm here to present 2 questions to the board. For the sake of transparency, would the library consider laying out steps of challenging a book on their website? And I think that was discussed a little bit earlier. And the second question is, would the library board consider telling parents that the library has LGBT material for minors under 18 and to provide an opt-out form and also provide a list of all the LGBT material for minors? This question was asked in part in August. It is being asked again because in reviewing recent board meetings, it was noted that the book of lists that were challenged were in the hands of those who opposed labeling as they spoke before you, and that someone sent me a screenshot of the Facebook page stating that they were listing all the books that were being challenged. What's interesting about that is that someone in the library provided a list of books to those people who opposed the labeling, but parents are never receiving the warning. A labeled book or a list of books that were challenged since the process has begun. So let's look at the Supreme Court decisions. Parents need to be involved in this. The U.S. Supreme Court case Muhammad versus Taylor is decided 6/27, 2025. Parents must be given the right to decide and provided an opt-out form from LGBT book materials in schools. SCOTUS rules Montgomery County Board of School Boards use the LGBT storybooks without opt-out violates the First Amendment's free exercise clause. Schools now must notify parents and allow these opt-outs. This form for parents would allow them to exercise their free exercise clause and the shield for their children from LGBT material in the library. Parents have been at a disadvantage because they do not know or have not been aware of the great number of LGBT materials almost done that have been placed on the shelves in the library. I hope the board will consider taking action on these two requests and decide for children and parents, they have a right to know.
Thank you. Debbie Polka, Hunter Road, and I'm not sure which community that is in. Bryson.
Good evening, everyone. This is message 202. I go ahead and start. Oh, good evening and a big thank you to all our library board for all your hard work and years and months and bearing with the process. Tonight, I want to bring forth my concerns about labeling age and appropriate content and materials for minors in the library. I don't want to spend my 3 minutes going over the history of getting books labeled, but it has been a very long journey. I went to the library on October 5th with my list of 222 books that were reviewed by the director and expected to see books labeled. I looked in juvenile, graphic novel for juvenile, and tween, teen, and parenting sections. Much to my surprise, I found only 2 juvenile books labeled social issues. The juvenile books are categorized by the author's last name. Then I spent a considerable amount of time looking at all the juvenile books row by row and only found the 2. I did look for the book Love, Violet, and although it said it was checked in, I could not locate it. It's just that. There was another book in that section titled Rick by the author Gino with no label. In the summary of the director's 222 book challenge evaluation, she said that 10 books were moved to other collections and 13 were labeled. Besides the 2 in juvenile, there were 5 with pink stickers and indicating they were LGBT books that were moved from juvenile to parenting. However, the shelf where the juvenile books were and the parenting shelf is in the same row. You didn't have to move to see them, you just turn around. I did take 11 pictures if you're interested in seeing what I looked at. Here are points of action that I hope this board will take. 1, these books should all be labeled gender identity or inappropriate content for minors, not social issues. Give parents a real warning label, which is necessary because this deals with sex for 3-year-olds and up. 2, what steps are being taken to label all books that were challenged that need the gender identity labels? What is the time frame for this? What is the delay? And 3, I'm asking the library to take responsibility and label all the books with age inappropriate content. If you are unaware, there's a disproportionate number of gender identity books. If they ordered 100 more since March, I'm asking all 100 should be labeled. It is defeating the purpose of labeling if we have to constantly check on all the books that are new. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane White, Held, Michigan.
Hello, everyone. I just want to say thank you to the board for working so hard also for the community. I know you're working hard, but you're really often when you have these meetings. I would like to request the library board consider forming a parent advisory committee that would assist the library in ensuring that local community values are reflected in Cromaine's catalog for monuments. The thought is that the committee would be appointed by the board with the majority of the members being local parents in the area but not employees. The committee could help in recommending books before they are ordered and added to the catalog. This could bridge a gap between parents and the library. They could work together. Currently, the library has more books that are inappropriate for minors than all the other subjects that I searched. The number of books that were found for minors up until the end of March was more than 222, and the single subject is sex. There were many more books to search, but we, the director and I, agreed to cut it off there. We had the request for reconsideration forms. We were gonna fill them all out and just hold right there until we figured out what we were doing. To begin the process of evaluating the books that were challenged, there have been more books added since then. So I just stated that the library has a disproportionate number of inappropriate books. So I want to read you the searches that I did for kids plus a subject. So sports, kids plus sports, okay, all one like that. 22 books, careers, 4 books, science, 55 books, crafts, 38 books, history, 50 books, gardening, 12 books, math, 41 books, language, 35 books, engineering, 14 books. The Constitution yielded 1 book, but if I did a Constitution search, there were 146, but I eyeballed like 10 pages and it looked like there were maybe 10 books, okay? Another point I want to bring to your attention is at this time that the Hartland schools recently said yes to starting a Turning Point USA chapter. And slogan chapters around the country are coming and being raised up by students. This is led by students and supported by free staff. Charlie Kirk was the founder of Turning Point USA and was a positive influence on high schools and college age students. He authored 7 books, and as of Tuesday, none of these books are in the library at Hartland. Other libraries in the network have them or are ordering them. I'm not. Okay. I hope that Cromaine will order them soon because they have students that are interested in reading them. Okay, so there were 3 messages, and these are the list of the things that we talked about. Thank you.
Thank you. Amber from Hartland. Hello.
Yes, yeah. When I went here 6 years ago, this library was one of my biggest struggles. I love its history, its programs, and the sense of community that it brings. I walk here almost every day. I always have something checked out. This is my library, and I'm proud to support it and our wonderful librarians with my textbooks. Public libraries are one of the greatest symbols of democracy. They exist so that every person, no matter their background or belief, has equal access to information and ideas. That commitment to knowledge and open access isn't just a library value, it's an American value. It's what makes libraries special, and it's what makes them worth protecting. When we start labeling and sequestering books based on personal or religious beliefs, we are stigmatizing and we step away from that prominence. It may seem small, but it opens the door to something much larger. A narrowing of voices, a shrinking of freedom, and a loss of trust in a space that's meant to serve everyone. If the goal is to promote our own values, the best way to do that is by example, not by suppression. Because when we choose suppression, we admit that our ideas can't stand on their own merits, that they need silence, not dialogue, to survive. And the moment we decide one group's perspective should outweigh another's, we all lose something. This process has already taken a toll. Our librarians have spent months reviewing over 200 books, fielding complaints, managing labeling systems. We have private security, and we're talking about lawyers. That's time, energy, and taxpayer money that could have gone toward programs and services that benefit everybody. And it also costs us something that's harder to measure, our reputation. People are hearing about what's happening here and are questioning whether our town still believes in intellectual freedom. This issue shouldn't divide us along political and religious lines. It's about whether we believe in American principles that make our democracy strong: freedom of thought, access to information, and respect for individual choice. My asks tonight are simple. Let parents guide their own children's reading. Stop labeling, sticker coding, and restricting books. Stop spending time and resources on censorship efforts. Restore trust in Sarah's professionalism. This library should not be a platform for one belief system or agenda. It belongs to all of us. Every reader, every family, every taxpayer. Let's protect it together so our library remains a place where everyone feels welcome, where ideas can coexist, and every story still has a place on the shelf.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Noreen Watkins?
Watkins.
Is it Noreen?
Yeah.
Noreen, okay,
Okay.
sorry.
I don't have much to say, but I would like to have a list of the 220 books that we're currently using. And once you've finished with the children's books, then you're going to move on to the adult books. No answer. It's very difficult to hear in here. We could hear most of the people. I'm sitting over there, but not the people on this side. And we also can't hear the speakers up here because the sound's going there and it's not coming back. So maybe we could look into that for the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. We can.
I would like to answer that. The book, everything, if you're asking about the 200 books,
Yeah.
everything is online. Full disclosure, everything is online on the website,
On
on the Cromaine Library Labs website. Yeah.
On the Board of Trustees page.
Yep.
I think this is Don Larry from Milford. Maybe great.
Words of Collins.
Oh. Dawn Collins?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don Collins, okay.
I want to commend the board, for identifying book problems and fighting not so painfully in here tonight. This was painful to watch. I'm sure it was painful to be a part of. I commend you for understanding how difficult classifications of books can be. I tried to classify my own personal library. It's a mess. I mean, it's not a mess, but you can find Russian history in several different sections, depending on who made the decision for classification. Sourcing, not a bad point, that we need to have sourcing to reflect the community. So hopefully you'll be able to find some sources and provide these to the director, and it sounds like she's willing to try that. Process and procedures, that is so incredibly important as you hold fiduciary responsibilities, because that can be a huge area for someone to come in and create havoc and cause problems and lawsuits that you don't want to get. You mentioned possibly putting a display in the library for false hate crimes or false accusations here in the community. I'd like to suggest perhaps disinformation or misinformation that goes across the spectrum. And that's a huge topic that we all need to be much better about being able to identify where we're getting our data. Personally, I'm in support of the Constitution and the First Amendment. My work history included working with juveniles who were adjudicated sexual offenders. My experience working with them and their families over a long period of time was that frequently those kids had either really bad information, really bad, and if you want specifics, I'm happy to give it to you afterwards, or they had no information. Both, and I suspect it happened to both the predators and the victims. So I think it's important that libraries have factual information available to the kids and to the community. I do trust our trained librarians much the same way that I trusted a qualified electrician to do the work in my house. I'm not going to have Joe Schmo tell me he knows how to do it. So I think, and I appreciate the fact that you all said that you trusted the decisions and weren't going to argue in those 30 seconds. I do object to books being labeled by, because there's a stigma attached. A lot of these kids, if they had homes that they could discuss stuff with, they wouldn't have been in the position they were in. So we don't need to create more stigmas. And I don't want books restricted because I don't want to restrict your books if we're on different ends of the spectrum. So thank you.
Thank you. Eliana C. from Livingston County.
In 1927, the famous American satirist Sinclair Lewis published Elmer Gantry, an American classic about a fraudster turned evangelical preacher whose corrupted morality drives him to manipulate everyone in his orbit, his neighbors, political leaders, his own congregation, and all for the sake of personal glory and ambition. Innocents who question the moral purpose of Gantry's church are hurt and even killed by his opportunistic eagerness to name them as enemies, as he whips up crowds of loyalists against them. Gantry rises to the peak of success within the church through these means, but remains self-serving all the way to the end of the book. The publication of Elmer Gantry created such a frenzy that April 13th, 1927, the edition of the New York Times read, "Boston Band's sale of Elmer Gantry will prosecute any who sell Lewis novel under the law against indecent and obscene books." For as long as humans have conceived new ideas and the ability to translate those ideas into writing, there have been suppressive ogres lurking about to prevent free expression. That will never change. More often than that, they are unsuccessful because as humans, we are instinctively aware that ideas worth the effort to suppress are often ideas that are worth knowing about. Hiding ideas behind locked bookcases, bizarre labels, or threats of persecution only fuels more curiosity. If the president of this board bothered to show any interest in literary history beyond the hackneyed version of the grifter pseudo-historian David Barton, he might learn something about this. Bolin and his supporters have become like those Gantry loyalists, naming as enemies their neighbors who don't see the world as they do. Doing so, coincidentally, serves to raise Bolin's media profile. News reports say Bolin smiles when members of the public mention the numerous times he's been negatively portrayed in articles and books. No doubt he's smiling because perhaps he enjoys nothing more than hearing the sound of his own voice and seeing his name in print, just like Elmer Gantry. And it is for this reason that I'm not addressing Bolin tonight. He doesn't need any more attention than he's already been given. I'm addressing the board members who are here to serve the public and and because we cannot do anything about people who will try to kill the First Amendment and free expression, ironically, because the First Amendment protects the right to protest. However, what leaders like you in our community can do is refuse to give those people a sense of legitimacy in the public space. We have seen efforts to eviscerate speech throughout this entire year on the national stage. This is your moment to make your stand here among your neighbors and draw the line in the sand.
Time.
Thank you.
I hope you do the right thing.
Logan Spina.
Good evening, everyone. I'm really pleased to be able to have been here and attended the meeting. I was just really impressed by how all of you are serving your community, spending as much time, taking as much effort as you are, both in dealing with your policy and
Please be quiet in the audience.
dealing with your policy and then even dealing with the procedure that you need to follow in order to retain legal counsel. I'm happy to address the board in a future meeting pursuant to whatever policy that procedure you end up needing to follow. But it's been a privilege even to be here just for a little bit tonight. By way of a quick introduction, my name is Logan Spina. I'm legal counsel for what ADF calls the Center for Free Speech. ADF is the world's largest legal organization dedicated to protecting free speech, free exercise of religion, parental rights, and the right to life around the world. Since 2011, ADF has won 16 cases for the United States Supreme Court. Presently, it has 4 cases pending before the court. As you probably know, the court takes less than 1% of the cases appealed to it. So having 4 cases in all in 1 year shows that ADF is one of the premier Supreme Court litigators in the country. You might wonder, why are we interested in representing the library board? We mostly represent individuals raising constitutional claims against the government, but we do also represent government entities that want to exercise their constitutional authority well, and we believe that this board is such an entity. We recently represented Oklahoma's statewide virtual charter school board for the Supreme Court of the United States. We also represent various state entities defending their laws, and we think that what this board is doing is important, and we'd like to provide assistance. I think I would have the opportunity to meet everyone except you, Ms. Dasley. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. You raised the concern about pro bono representation. I can tell you that we do all of our litigation work is pro bono, and of course, pursuant to whatever procedure you adopt, there will be a contract that specifies those terms. But again, I'm happy to follow whatever procedure the board is willing to follow. I also know that there are some concerns. I'd be happy to meet you and talk to you. I'll be here for the rest of some time after evening, after this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Logan. Kate Mazzara from Hartland.
Just like to say, you know, what Amber's had from you today. And I
Ma'am,
are reclaiming time.
yes, you can start on that. Right, from the audience, please. Audience, excuse me just one second. Ladies in the audience, gentlemen in the audience, if you want to have conversation, all you have to do is step outside those doors. While someone is speaking, please grant them the ability to speak and let your attention be upon them. Thank you very much.
Okay. Matthew 7:15 NIV. Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. Here we are again with Mr. Bolin and the board of directors attempting to infringe on First Amendment rights. Mr. Bolin has brought partisan politics as well as the alt-right Christian agenda to our library, attempting to hide his nefarious agenda behind protecting children and needing new legal representation. In April, this board discounted the lawyer that had been the library's legal representation because members of the board felt that by advising the library to maintain the status quo for concerns of costly First Amendment lawsuit, that lawyer was considered too far left. Mr. Bolin was then offered a list of lawyers that were moderate and knowledgeable in library law and licensed Michigan bar attorneys. However, Mr. Bolin has declined fair and balanced representation for our library. Instead, with their hypocrisy visible to everyone, they sought after Logan Spina, an extreme right ADF lawyer. The Alliance Defending Freedom, which should be called the Alliance Defending Christianity, is a conservative Christian legal advocacy group. Its stated mission is to expand Christian religious practices within public schools and in government, and is most known for its stance on outlawing abortion, opposing same-sex marriage, and other LGBTQ rights. This group has has an agenda in its Christian nationalism. No separation of church or state here, folks. Logan Spina is not licensed to practice law in Michigan, is not a library law specialist. His practice is focused on violation of First Amendment rights as it affects Christians. This is not an appropriate representation of our library. As I've been out in the community educating patrons of the Cromaine Library at book clubs, bookstores, events, and people I come into contact with a daily basis in public, they are shocked to learn what is happening at the Cromaine. 222 books being challenged by a tiny group of people, books being labeled and moved. The community is overwhelmingly disappointed with the action and sees it as a colossal waste of time and expense. Speaking of labeling, your rules say that labels should be neutral. The hot pink label on LGBTQ books is not neutral, as this color was used to distinguish in Nazi Germany to distinguish gay men and trans women. Coincidence? I think not. It is up to parents what books their children can read. It is not their it's their responsibility. These books are not, most of these books are not salacious. They are not a danger to children. Conservatives just don't like them or are afraid if someone reads a book, they'll identify with the subject matter. It doesn't work this way. You don't have the right to live in a world where LGBTQ folks don't exist. You don't have the right to remove their stories and experiences from libraries or the collective consciousness. And finally, the library hiring security
is a big waste of taxpayer money, although I know if I were to choose my First Amendment right, I know I wouldn't be attacked by the Gobeletsky.
Lynn Piantella, and please, another outburst, I'm gonna ask you to leave the room.
What's that?
If there's another outburst in this section, those of you who are performing the outburst, we will ask you to leave the room.
Who did you call him?
What name? Lynn Piantella.
Oh, Lynn
Lynn.
Piantella?
It's Lynn.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys have pretty much hashed this issue on the top over, I mean, it's not that night, but I encourage the board to read all of the books on the challenge list and act accordingly. You have the support of the vast majority of the public. You've been doing a good job so far in protecting our kids, so stay the course and review the books. The left will never be happy. There's a small minority of activists trying to tear down their country and corrupt our youth with their woke agenda. Yes, we've seen tonight, one individual couldn't even recite our Pledge of Allegiance with respect and without being loud and obnoxious.
Thank you, Lynn. Kathy Cass from Clinton.
So. Thank you all for being here tonight. Certainly, everyone in this room is here because we love the library and we love our community. And that's everyone in this room. I agree with what you were saying, Dawn. It is a library's job to preserve and protect knowledge and provide information to a community. That's what you yourself said earlier tonight. Some parents want to restrict books, label them, move them, make them difficult to find, try and hide information. That's better than banning it totally, but that's the same continuum. You were concerned about a shadow ban, labeling books, moving them where people can't find them. I'm an adult. I don't look for books in the children's section. Why would a child or a teen be looking in other sections? It'll mean they won't be able to find the books. Each parent can choose what they want their child to read. That way, all parents can be happy. If you don't want to read a book, you don't want your child to read a book, don't check it out. Let other people who do want to read the book have the same respect and rights that you have. I don't understand why any mention of sexual activity seems to be a grounds for moving or banning a book. In the Diary of Anne Frank, Anne is a teenager, she's going through puberty, she has sexual feelings, she has her first boyfriend. Would that book be removed? In To Kill a Mockingbird, a Black man is falsely accused of rape. Would that book be removed? At Tessa the Duvervilles, she gets raped by her employer. Would that book be removed? These are all recognized classics. They include a sexual element. That's just one part of an important book. And lastly, why on earth wouldn't you want to hire a lawyer with library experience when this is a library with legal problems? Would you want to hire a plumber to fix your electrical problem? Would you want to hire a veterinarian to do your brain surgery?
Thank you. April C.
I'm here today simply to support my local community. I mean nothing of you, but I'm appalled. There were people who were doing absolutely legal activities and you snickered at them. Aren't you voted in by the people that you were snickering at? They were doing something legal. They weren't doing illegal things. Some of what they were doing, I don't agree with. Yeah, I do. But holding up a sign has been proven to be illegal. You said don't watch them do something so ridiculous. Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't.
Okay. If it wasn't exactly that word, it was very close. But that was the point of what you were saying. Number two, I want to know if you are an expert on knowing what the left wing and the right wing, what a library book would look like. What is your background on
I'm not
that?
allowed to address at home.
I didn't hear.
I'm not allowed to address.
Oh, I'm not here. I can speak to you. Sure. But anyway, I don't think as an educated person that you actually have that. You didn't sound. So anyway, as somebody who is from Brenda, not of your community, I'm ashamed.
Julie Dunham, thank you, by the way. Julie from Dunham Lake. Oakland County.
Stone's throw away from the county line. My son goes with him. All right, my time starts.
You live in Oakland County.
I am a patron of this library. I want to remind everybody here that per the Alliance Defending Freedom's website, their mission is to, quote, ensure the law respects God's created order of marriage and the family, ADF advocates, for laws and precedents that promote human flourishing by recognizing and honoring God's design for marriage between one man and one woman, end quote. And what we know is that this first batch of hundreds of books under attack is almost all LGBT material. But understand that it does not stop here. They will absolutely expand to censor books about race, racism, and honest history. Just Google it, it's already happening around the country. And we see this already happening here because they've channeled a Cromaine book titled 14th Amendment and the First Fight for Equality, which is a look at the amendment's impacts on civil rights and liberties in the US. This matters to me a great deal as my biracial family are patrons of this library. Despite a board member and their friends continuously harassing and questioning the level of my husband's skin melanin, I assure you we are indeed a biracial family. So I don't understand why the book, 14th Amendment and the Fight for Equality, is included in the manufactured hysteria about sexualization and exploitation of children. The challenger feels so sure that that book, 14th Amendment and the Fight for Equality, needs to be removed from this library that is now being appealed to the board for reconsideration of removal. That's what they want. According to the website, Alliance Defending Freedom is the world's largest legal organization committed to protecting religious freedoms, parental rights, and God's design for marriage and family. They have been involved in legal and political work, such as writing legislation that led to the overthrow of Roe versus Wade, the stripping of LGBTQ rights, advocating for religious activity in public schools. So I am wondering why this quite powerful worldwide legal entity is A, being pushed into our small community, but B, willing to work with a wannabe strongman like Bowling. Somebody who's so underqualified to run a library board that he didn't even realize when he tried to sneak off into a secret meeting behind closed doors to pull the labeling vote, that the rest of his board was able to outsmart him in following basic public meeting procedures to ensure he didn't get his way. The look on your face, Bill, when that happened was priceless. And now we see the same behavior again, where you are trying to hastily push through hiring this clearly political and religiously motivated legal team. I just hope that they realize the potential risks they are taking by working with such an unqualified individual. I wonder if they think I would have a case against you, Bill. An elected official who thinks it's okay to publicly call for their patron, me, you call for a patron of this library, you call for me to be maliciously doxxed. Eventually, that behavior is going to have legal consequences, though. You can expect it. I want everybody to think about that. He called for me to be doxxed, a biracial family in this community who has come under fire with serious white supremacy issues, and you wanted my information to be put on a website.
Time.
Shame. Shameful.
I'd like to address the board at call to public.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
I'm addressing the board as a citizen here. Please give me my 3 minutes. It is interesting that a group in this community known as SAGE has just said some horrible things about everyone and doesn't address the whole board, chooses to address individuals of this board. The person as well was caught on camera lying to the police about certain situations. It's on video, it's on tape, it is a fact. You don't lie to the police, not once, but twice. It's on tape. It would be great if all the great things that we're doing at Cromaine is promoted more. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to agenda items for our next meeting.
Can we confirm the dates that are on the?
Yeah, we're not done yet, ma'am.
Almost done.
We're almost done.
I think the dates are correct. They're on here, but if they are not, we can adjust them. Like we copy from month to month, so I'm just worried that some of them we've changed. It is the 20th, yes. And then for agenda items, we just have 3 things for personnel, my evaluation form, and then the things that were referred back to committee. Do we need to list those, or are they just going to be brought by committee? Oh, and the auditor presentation will be next time. We can just email if there's issues. We're not going to do it at 10 o'clock. No, don't worry. I'll send an email.
And then the finance committee to get for the date for.
You talked back before, second time, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be just live.
So let's change that to the 11th. Okay.
And then
Okay. I just like to confirm those because it's easier than all the emails. And I'm sorry. Yes, next week. Feel free to come. It's always a fun time and it's usually quick. It's at the music hall. Okay. Is there anything else to add to the agenda? I have auditor presentation and then I guess the committee work will come up through the committees. Okay.
I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor, indicate by standing up. I never.
I'm gonna give a copy of this to Diane.
I never.